Chapter 1251. Suyu looked at them with some pity. In theory, they were destined to be swallowed by the giant of the bitter sea when they were born. Their fate was sad. Sighing softly, Suyu said, "I'm not entirely sure. Besides, if I told you, would you still choose to launch a coup?" The sixth princess did not refute in the end. Indeed, if they knew this terrible truth, would they have the courage to launch a coup? Because they had to face not only Princess Yunxia, but also the giant of the bitter sea. The eldest prince looked at the gradually approaching bitter sea and said, "You led the giant of the bitter sea out of the bitter sea. Is there another purpose?" Suyu nodded. "Well, the bitter sea is the ultimate retreat I prepared. The altar is just a backup option. It would be best if we could leave, but it doesn't matter if we can't. We still have the bitter sea." The second princess looked surprised. "The bitter sea is our retreat? Are you confused? You can't fly for too long over the bitter sea. Even if the gods teleport, they can't teleport far. They must come back immediately. Otherwise, it is normal for the gods to fall in it." The bitter sea was clearly a dangerous place. Being brought here by Suyu, the second princess was going crazy. The eldest prince and the sixth princess were silent. Judging from Suyu's character, he always planned ahead. There must be a purpose for bringing them to the bitter sea. However, like the second princess, they couldn't understand where there was a way out of the bitter sea. The sixth princess blinked. "No creature has crossed the bitter sea for 10 million years. Why are you so sure that there is a way out for us?" "Hee." Suyu laughed softly. "Any living creature? I don't think so. Have you forgotten someone?" "Who?" The three princes were stunned. Apart from the giant of the bitter sea, there were other creatures that could cross the bitter sea? "The god of death," Suyu said. "He appeared in my tribulation, which is enough to show that he is also a demon emperor of a generation. He should be in the demon world, but he appeared in the galaxy. Don't you think it strange?" The three princes and princesses were stunned. According to the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons, the clones of the past were swallowed by the giant of the bitter sea, except for the god of death, who lived in the galaxy. Suyu nodded. In the records of the demon dimension, there was a demon emperor who was dragged into the bitter sea by the giant of the bitter sea. Since then, he has disappeared without a trace. No one knows whether he is dead or alive. Upon hearing this, the three princes and princesses blurted out, "The ninth demon emperor, the undead demon emperor." How could they not know the only demon emperor who was dragged away by the giant of the bitter sea? "Yes, it's him. I suspect that he is the god of death who escaped from the demon realm. In the history of the devil world, the life and death of the past devil emperors are recorded in detail. They were born in the devil world and died in the devil world. In the end, they will definitely return to the first devil emperor. However, the undying demon emperor was nowhere to be found. Therefore, the undying demon emperor should be the god of death in the galaxy. The appearance of the god of death had always been a mystery in the galaxy. No one knew where the god of death had come from, and no one knew how powerful he was. It was as if he had appeared overnight, joined the land of divine remains, and founded the netherworld school. The starry sky only knew so much about him. His current identity might be able to explain everything. A demon emperor who escaped from the demon realm. The sixth princess's crystal eyes lit up. She stared at the bitter sea and said, "You mean, there is a second way out of the demon realm in the bitter sea?" Suyu's eyes sparkled. "Yes. He was dragged into the bitter sea and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in the galaxy. Isn't that enough to explain the problem? The bitter sea must have a way to the outside world. It was because of this that the undead demon emperor was able to escape from the demon realm and avoid the fate of being devoured by the first devil emperor." When the crowd heard this, they only felt that it was unbelievable. Among the clues, Suyu found a way to the outside of the demon realm that no one had discovered for thousands of years. Swish! The group of people communicated and soon teleported to the shore of the Bitter Sea. Over there, a group of early-stage prospective deities were using their divine power without caring about the consumption, refining a 10-feet-tall tree that was burning with golden flames. When they first saw this scene, except for the purple-eyed demonic god who knew everything about the plan, everyone else, including the princes and princesses, was stunned. This is... The sixth princess thought she was clever, but staring at the huge tree that was 10 feet thick, she couldn't believe it for a moment. That familiar scent, that familiar flame, if it wasn't the golden flames forbidden wood, then what was it? However, the golden flames forbidden wood could not survive in the demon realm. It had long been extinct. What was going on with this lush, fresh giant tree that had obviously been dug out not long ago? Suddenly, the sixth princess remembered that Suyu had asked her for the dying golden flames forbidden wood. Could it be cultivated by that seed? But the sixth princess quickly erased this absurd idea. In just half a year, a dying seed was cultivated into a mature golden flames forbidden wood? Even if the first devil emperor was here, he would never be able to do it. The eldest prince's pupils shrank fiercely. Golden flames forbidden wood? The second princess ran over in surprise and circled around the golden flames forbidden wood. Her face was full of astonishment. Oh my God! How is this possible? There is actually a complete golden flames forbidden wood growing in the demon realm. Looking at the age, it is at least 500 years old. Where did you find it? The second princess was shocked. Bai Wanqing was also shocked. She knew that there could not be a second one in the demon realm. The only possibility was that the golden flames forbidden wood came from Suyu. How well did he hide it? To this day, Bai Wanqing recalled the arrogance she had when she first saw Suyu. She felt hot all over and ashamed. In front of such a person, what was her divine path worth? No wonder Master was in awe of Suyu. At this moment, Bai Wanqing finally let go of some of her pride and lowered her head. At this moment, a group of early-stage prospective deities were working hard to refine it, cutting off the branches on it, trying to refine it into a small boat. Everyone, let's help refine it together, Suyu said. These early-stage prospective deities were ordered by Suyu before the coup began. He ordered them to come here in advance and carve the golden flames forbidden wood into a boat. Hearing this, everyone's eyes burst with a scorching light. Yes, the golden flames forbidden wood was the only known material that could withstand the water of the Bitter Sea. Of course, a boat made of this material could gallop across the Bitter Sea. Once they entered the Bitter Sea, no matter how powerful the holy magic hall was, could they chase them into the Bitter Sea? At that time, they could only stand on the shore of the Bitter Sea and watch them enter the depths of the Bitter Sea. Thinking of this, their cheeks, which were full of gloom, were once again filled with vigor. Including the 3 princes and princesses, 10 deities joined the refining process. Although the golden flames forbidden wood was difficult to refine, under the joint efforts of 10 deities, the outline of a small boat gradually appeared. Hurry up! No matter how good the book deity is, he will never calculate that there is a second way to leave the demonic dimension. They must be guarding the altar now, waiting for the holy magic hall to take action, and then they can catch us like turtles in a jar. Suyu's eyes twinkled with bright wisdom, and he clearly understood the motives and plans of Princess Yunxia and others. Ha ha ha! That demon concubine thinks that she has the right time, place, and people, but she doesn't know that you have made a fool out of all of them. The 6th princess was extremely happy. It seemed that she could make Princess Yunxia suffer, and she was particularly proud. Staring at Suyu, the 6th princess found Suyu more and more pleasing to the eye. In addition to the fact that he concealed the relationship between the giant of the Bitter Sea and her father, which caused her to have murderous intentions, getting along with him was really like a fish in water. At this moment, after carefully combing through it, one could see that Suyu was very generous. From the beginning to the end, Su Yu's hope of escaping the demonic dimension was never pinned on the altar, but on the bitter sea. He carried out a series of plans, helped them launch a coup, and lured out the giant of the bitter sea, all for today. Of course, what she didn't know was that Su Yu planned the coup, in addition to conveniently diverting the attention of the Holy Magic Hall, was more importantly to disrupt the demonic dimension and buy time for the Xing River creatures. Otherwise, Su Yu would have had many opportunities to leave the demonic dimension. But the sixth princess rolled her eyes. "We are busy, and you are not doing anything?" Su Yu said lightly. "I have more important things to do." "More important?" the sixth princess muttered, staring at Su Yu suspiciously, and then very actively engaged in the project of refining the golden flames forbidden wood. In the imperial city, the battle between the Holy Magic Hall and the Ku army came to an end. On one side, there were hundreds of ferocious demonic gods, and on the other side, there were ordinary demonic gods who were stubbornly resisting and in a desperate situation. In terms of strength and number, the two sides were several times apart, so the final outcome was obvious. All the Ku deities, including the princes and princesses, had become food in the mouths of the Holy Magic Hall's demonic gods. The demonic general of 6 paths greets the princess. The great commander of the Holy Magic Hall, the demonic god of 6 paths, led the ferocious demonic gods and came with an extremely respectful attitude, as if she was the real master of the Holy Magic Hall. Princess Yunxia nodded majestically. "The Holy Magic Hall is indeed worthy of being the Holy Magic Hall that I built." In the battle between the two sides, the Holy Magic Hall did not lose any deities, only 1 or 2 were seriously injured. With such a ferocious army, who could compete with the Eastern and Western Divine Realms alliances? Not to mention, there were as many as 50 ordinary deities in the demonic dimension. Such a huge lineup was enough to crush the entire Xing River. Princess Yunxia took out a bottle of green spiritual liquid from her sleeve. "You did well today, take it." The demonic god of 6 paths took the spiritual liquid, and a hint of joy appeared on his indifferent face. The rest of the demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall also showed hunger in their eyes. The Demon Cloud City Master, who had just joined the Holy Magic Hall, was half scared and half confused. His change was enough to explain the origin of the Holy Magic Hall. All the deities of the Holy Magic Hall were transformed from ordinary deities into blood-red demonic gods. After swallowing the strange green spiritual liquid, their bodies would gradually change. Not only would their strength become stronger, but their temperament would also gradually become violent and difficult to control. Every month, they had to swallow a dark green spirit liquid. Otherwise, they would feel so much pain that they would rather die. Many deities of the Holy Magic Hall could not bear the pain of the hell and chose to commit suicide. Only by swallowing the liquid could they relieve the pain. However, the more they swallowed, the more violent they would feel. Gradually, they would lose their reason and eventually become beasts that only knew how to kill. What was more terrible was that the green spiritual liquid made them slaves of Princess Yunxia. Without the spiritual liquid given by her, they could not live for more than a month at all. "Su Yu, it's all your fault." The Demon Cloud City Master was full of hatred. He was reduced to a deity of the Holy Magic Hall because of Su Yu. After the coup was over, Princess Yunxia looked at the giant of the Bitter Sea who was gradually walking towards the Bitter Sea. She glanced at the deities of the Holy Magic Hall and said coldly, "Those who ate the princes and princesses just now, step forward." Swish. 5 gods stood out. The third prince and the others had been eaten by them. Chapter 1252. The 5 demonic gods were expressionless, as if they were being controlled. Despite their inner resistance, they did not resist and rushed to the giant of the Bitter Sea. The giant of the Bitter Sea suddenly turned back, opened his mouth, sucked the 5 gods into his mouth, and then ate them alive. From beginning to end, the 5 demonic gods did not resist at all. The Demon Cloud City Master's scalp was numb. This was the final stage of taking the green spiritual liquid. They would completely lose themselves and only know how to obey orders and nature. After the giant of the bitter sea finished eating, his ferocious face showed a hint of unwillingness. He stretched out his huge giant hand and pointed in the direction of Su Yu and the others. There were also the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess. The three of them were the best of the princes and princesses. In theory, they were the reincarnation doppelgangers of the giant of the bitter sea, second only to the contemporary demon emperor. They must be swallowed. Princess Yunxia stared at the bitter sea and smiled charmingly. The game of catching turtles in a jar can begin. The demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall stepped forward. Capture the three princes and princesses alive. In addition, leave the feather demon's body intact. After saying that, she followed them, surrounded by the Holy Magic Hall members. On the shore of the bitter sea, the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood boat gradually took shape. It was 10 feet long and could accommodate more than 30 people. Moreover, in order to prevent the water from the bitter sea from splashing into the boat, the extra materials of the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood were refined into a cover under the joint efforts of the 10 gods. When they sat in it and closed the cover, the water of the bitter sea could be completely isolated. Su Yu couldn't help but click his tongue when he saw this. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like a submarine from his previous life. However, in the bitter sea, this kind of boat was the only one that could sail safely. Okay, get on the boat and leave immediately. They should have reacted by now, Su Yu said. Swish, all of them jumped into the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood boat and quickly closed the cover. Just after this, waves of divine light fluctuated, dense like raindrops, flashing on the shore. You actually ran to the bitter sea, are you desperate? Before appearing, the Demon Cloud City Master sneered. However, when he opened his eyes, he was shocked by the golden boat that was half in the bitter sea. Is that the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood? Princess Yunxia also showed up. When she saw the small boat that had half of its body submerged in the bitter sea, the faint smile of victory suddenly shattered and was replaced by shock. How could there be such a huge Golden Flames Forbidden Wood? Was it something that a certain prince had painstakingly nurtured for many years? No way. The Golden Flames Forbidden Wood could not survive in the demon realm. The book deity appeared, and his eyes suddenly froze. He said in a low voice, "He still has a backup plan. Princess, quickly let them take action, or else it will be too late." Without waiting for the book deity's reminder, Consort Yunxia had already issued an extremely decisive order. I've changed my mind. Kill them all without mercy, don't hold back. They were about to escape, so how could they show any mercy? The demonic god of 6 paths shouted in a low voice and teleported over first. When the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood boat was about to be completely submerged in the bitter sea, he grabbed its tail. The faces of the people on the ship darkened. It's the demonic god of 6 paths, the disciple of the current demon emperor. The eldest prince's face darkened. As their teacher, the eldest prince knew how horrible the demonic god of 6 paths was. Even if the 9 princes and princesses joined forces, they would never be able to compete with the demonic god of 6 paths, the strongest demonic god below the demon emperor. The 6th princess also looked cold. At the last moment, the demonic god of 6 paths caught up with them. The most terrible thing was that it was the demonic god of 6 paths who attacked them. He alone could kill all of them. The only person on the ship who was still calm was Su Yu. 5 elements divine prison, Su Yu shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, under the ground on the shore of the bitter sea, a colorful small tower jumped out abruptly. The small tower pressed down on the head of the demonic god of 6 paths. Boom! Boom! The earth roared as if a whole cavern world was pressed down. Half of the body of the demonic god of 6 paths was pressed into the ground. Cracks spread on the surface of the body of the demonic god of 6 paths like spider silk. If it were an ordinary demonic god, This sudden pressure was enough to kill him. However, the demonic god of six paths was still holding on to the small boat tightly. Concubine Yunxia and the others secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Su Yu had underestimated the demonic god of six paths. If the other demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall had attacked him, they might have escaped. However, when they were relieved, Su Yu's voice came from the ship again. Star River Scripture. Along with the pungent smell of the divine blood, an angry roar came suddenly. A deity-level wild beast rushed out of the ship, roaring and biting the arm of the demonic god of six paths that was holding on to the ship. Seeing this, the book deity's face darkened. This was a deity-level wild beast that he had collected little by little with great efforts. Last time, it was snatched away by Su Yu. He didn't expect to use it now. However, the arm of the demonic god of six paths was only bitten by the deity-level wild beast. The strength of his body was unparalleled. Along with a cold snort, the demonic god of six paths opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of demonic energy, which blew away the deity-level wild beast. The demonic god of six paths had a murderous look on his face. He was about to pull the ship out of the water of the bitter sea. This was a dangerous moment. Another cold roar came from the ship. Holy Demon Summoning Technique. Su Yu shouted. Suddenly, a rotating formation appeared in the sky. Earth-shaking roars were heard one after another. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked, including the first prince and the others in the ship. The secret technique of the royal family, the Holy Demon Summoning Technique. The sixth princess stared at Su Yu in disbelief. Su Yu was holding the divine blood of the seventh prince in his hand, and he was also emitting the royal scent of the seventh prince. The first prince was shocked. The second princess screamed, "Are you also a member of the royal family of the demon dimension?" The Holy Demon Summoning Technique was a top-secret technique that could only be practiced by the royal family of the demon race. No, except for the demon emperor, no one in the current royal family had practiced it. None of them had practiced it, but Su Yu, a person from the Star River, had succeeded. Moreover, what was the matter with the scent of the seventh prince in his body? While they were still in shock, 9 ferocious beasts rushed out of the formation. They were excited, cruel, greedy, and agitated. When they found the demonic god of six paths in front of them, they roared in surprise and rushed forward. Chaos Beasts. The Holy Magic Hall and Princess Yunxiao were all shocked and stepped back. They were the most terrible creatures in the demon dimension, the Chaos Beasts. There were 18 of them in total. 9 of them were taken as spiritual pets by the current demon emperor, and the other 9 were exiled to the Star River. How could they appear in the demon dimension? However, there was no time to think about it. The demonic god of six paths had been besieged by the Chaos Beasts. With a painful roar, the demonic god of six paths' arm, which was grabbing the ship, was bitten off by one of the Chaos Beasts. The god-level wild beast could only bite off a layer of skin, but the Chaos Beasts only needed one bite. The demonic god of six paths was shocked and tried to grab the ship with his other hand. However, the Chaos Beasts rushed forward and bit him. The other hand he stretched out was bitten off in the blink of an eye. Without any restraints, the ship finally slid into the sea of bitterness and quickly sank into it. No matter how many deities there were, they would never dare to enter the bitter sea to search for them. The demonic god of six paths was suppressed by the 5 elements' divine prison and could not move. The Chaos Beasts devoured half of the demonic god of six paths in just a few seconds. Fortunately, Princess Yunxia ordered the deities of the Holy Magic Hall to drive the Chaos Beasts away. Although they could not be killed, they were summoned. When the time was up, they would naturally be sent back. The black-green water dragon in the 5 elements' divine prison also took the opportunity to control the 5 elements' divine prison to fall into the bitter sea and catch up with the ship. When the last ripple disappeared in the bitter sea, Princess Yunxia's majestic face finally became gloomy. The book deity and the demon Cloud City Master also looked gloomy. The demonic god of 6 paths, who was wounded all over, became more and more violent. On the coast, it was silent. With so many people, they thought it was easy to catch a turtle in a jar. Who would have thought that they would be fooled by the opponent? Dong! Dong! At this moment, the towering giant of the bitter sea came to the shore and slowly squatted down. Princess Yunxia's eyes lit up. Get on the shoulder of the giant of the bitter sea. Swish! Swish! More than 100 deities of the holy magic hall jumped up one after another. Surprisingly, the giant of the bitter sea did not swallow them. Staring at the giant of the bitter sea close at hand, no deity was not afraid. This was a nightmare that had troubled the demon dimension for thousands of years. What if he suddenly turned his head and ate them? Or, he suddenly sank into the bitter sea, and they all fell into the water of the bitter sea. What should they do? With uneasiness, they followed the giant of the bitter sea into the bitter sea. In the depths of the bitter sea, a golden enclosed boat was like a lively little fish in the bitter sea. It leaped forward quickly, leaving one after another afterimage in the bitter sea. In the boat there was a dead silence. The 6th princess looked at Su Yu with her pretty eyes full of splendor. She finally understood why Su Yu was indifferent when they were busy refining the boat and claimed to be doing more important things. It turned out that he had prepared 3 backup plans. If it weren't for these 3 decisive trump cards, just thinking about what would have happened to them was enough to make one shudder. Was there any luck to speak of when the demonic god of 6 paths made his move? No. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to express her inner emotions. Instead, Su Yu broke the strange silence. We escaped for the time being. Yes. Even the carefree 2nd princess had an embarrassed look on her face. She stared at Su Yu like a mortal looking at a god. The eldest prince paused and cupped his hands. Brother Yu demon, you have a good strategy, I admire you. Su Yu was the only one who could make the first prince of the demon dimension say this. Bai Wanqing moved a little closer to Su Yu, and her pretty face under the veil was slightly flushed. Her red lips opened slightly, and she said softly, My lord is wise, Wanqing is willing to follow you. Following such a wise and resourceful person, it was hard not to gain something. Su Yu glanced at her and did not pursue the past disrespect. My real name is Su Yu, you can call me Su Yu. Su Yu said casually, We can't relax yet. Entering the bitter sea is only a temporary escape from the pursuit of Princess Yunxia. We still have to face the pursuit of the soldiers of the bitter sea. Don't forget, the 3 of you are his targets. The eldest prince, the 2nd princess, and the 6th princess were shocked. Indeed, Princess Yunxia may not be able to go deep into the bitter sea, but the giant of the bitter sea could. Chapter 1253. Furthermore, we've only entered the sea of bitterness and found the exit to the Milky Way. We don't have any clues. We still don't know how the undying demon emperor escaped from the sea of bitterness. Everyone nodded. Escaping into the sea of bitterness was only the first step. How to leave the demonic world was the ultimate goal. The sea of bitterness is boundless. If we search for the exit aimlessly, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. The first prince pondered and said, We must think of a way to determine the search area. Everyone nodded. Judging from the coastline of the bitter sea, the size of the bitter sea was no less than the entire demon realm. How the undying demon emperor had left back then was a complete mystery. He had to find some clues. I have some clues, but they are very weak. I have limited information about the demon world, so I need you to analyze them. The 3 princes and princesses were shocked. What, you have a clue? The 6th princess was surprised. Su Yu nodded. I only analyzed the clues. The undying demon emperor was dragged into the bitter sea by the giants. He didn't have a golden flames forbidden wood boat like ours, so it was impossible for him to resist the water of the bitter sea for too long. Therefore, the passageway he discovered couldn't be too far from the coast. The 3 princes and princesses nodded in agreement. According to the records of the Giant of the Bitter Sea that I have observed and looked up, every time the Giant of the Bitter Sea appears, it is near the coast. I guess that the nest of the Giant of the Bitter Sea is probably not far from the coast. That place might be where the undying demon emperor discovered the passageway and escaped. After listening to Su Yu's analysis, the eyes of the three princes and princesses lit up. The eldest prince muttered, "I know the nest of the Giant of the Bitter Sea." And Su Yu was overjoyed. Sure enough, the people of the demon dimension had more comprehensive information. The second princess said, "It's nothing. I also know that there are relevant records in the royal secret scriptures. Every time the Giant of the Bitter Sea goes ashore, and where it goes when it goes offshore, there are detailed records. After many years of summarization, we can speculate the location of the giant's nest." "It is true." The sixth princess nodded in confirmation. Su Yu smiled. "It seems like we have a greater chance." Soon, they turned around and moved quickly toward the nest of the Giant of the Bitter Sea. After driving for 2 months, they had traversed almost from one end of the coastline to the other. If they were in the sky, the gods might be able to reach them with a single thought. However, in the Bitter Sea, the speed of the golden boat was only comparable to that of a mortal ferry, and it took them 2 months to get there. Soon, on this day, the eldest prince's gaze turned serious. In the past 2 months, they could infer from the abnormal fluctuations of the Bitter Sea water that the Giant of the Bitter Sea had always been chasing behind them, and as the Bitter Sea water became more and more turbulent, they knew that the Giant of the Bitter Sea was very close. At this moment, the sea of bitterness around them was surging. Undercurrents stirred up, causing their boat to become extremely unstable as it sailed forward. "Open the skylight and prepare to search for the passage," Su Yu said. Under his control, 18 pieces of the golden flames forbidden wood inside the ship shrank, revealing a gap. However, the water of the Bitter Sea from the outside did not pour in, because there was a layer of transparent material that was invisible to the naked eye at the gap. It was woven by the meridians of the golden flames forbidden wood. Not only was it transparent, but it could also resist the water of the Bitter Sea. Thus, the situation of the outside world appeared before his eyes. In front of them was a boundless area of rubble. Pieces of huge stones were put together into an extremely huge stone bed, with a radius of 1,000,000 feet. "Is this the bed of the Giant of the Bitter Sea?" The second princess took a breath. This place was already the lair of the Giant of the Bitter Sea. If the inference was correct, the passage to leave the demon realm was in the nearby waters. The people on the ship looked around through the windows. In their close search, the Giant of the Bitter Sea seemed to notice something. Suddenly, he roared up to the sky, took a step, and galloped in the Bitter Sea. The Giant of the Bitter Sea. "What's wrong?" The book deity was shocked. Princess Yunxia looked surprised and shook her head slowly. "I don't know, they must have done something, and the Giant of the Bitter Sea is anxious. Don't let them run away." Time passed by, but they could never find where the passage was, not even a trace. They had almost searched the nest of the Giant of the Bitter Sea. "Did we look in the wrong place?" The eldest prince fell into doubt. The sixth princess was also lost in thought. The second princess was anxious. "Why don't we leave this place first and come back quietly later?" Looking out of the window, the water of the Bitter Sea was stormy, and the second princess's heart was pounding. The Giant of the Bitter Sea was approaching. It was the most critical moment. Su Yu had no confidence in his heart. After all, the existence of the passage was all speculation, and there was no evidence. However, the more critical the moment, the calmer Su Yu was. "Quiet. This is the place where the passage is most likely to appear. We must have missed something." The second princess hurriedly said, "What can we miss? We have searched everywhere, and we have almost dug 3 feet into the seabed." Suddenly, Su Yu's mind flashed with a flash of inspiration. Dig 3 feet into the seabed? Su Yu's eyes became brighter and brighter. Through the window, he stared at the huge stone bed below and said, How could I forget the stone bed? Everyone was shocked. Could it be that the passageway was in the stone bed? You might want to think about it. This passage is the second passage to the outside world. The giant of the bitter sea is entrenched here. Where is the best place to guard it? Of course, the closest place. For a giant of the bitter sea who has been sleeping for thousands of years, the closest place is, of course, under the bed. Everyone, focus on the stone bed. The escape of the undead demon emperor happened 1,000 years ago, which means that there was at least one loophole at that time. Now that we can't find it, it must be blocked by the giant of the bitter sea. As long as we find the blocked stone, we can find the passage. The second princess blinked. But such a big stone bed, there are countless stones. Which one is the blocked stone? This time, Suyu did not answer, and the sixth princess knocked her on the head. Sister, you are really stupid. The chaotic world has existed for 10 million years, and the blocked stone is newly added. There is a big difference between new and old. The second princess suddenly understood. At this moment, the water of the bitter sea was becoming more and more turbulent, forming a whirlpool on the seabed, making it more difficult for them to find it. However, they had narrowed the target to the smallest range, and the goal was extremely clear. Finally, after half a cup of tea, the second princess suddenly screamed and pointed through the window to an inconspicuous hill. Look, that hill, it has decayed less than the rest of the stones, and the traces of erosion by the water of the bitter sea are far less intense than the rest of the stone bed. Everyone looked over, and sure enough, the hill was obviously much newer than the rest of the stone bed. When they drove the boat over, they were even more delighted to find that there was an extremely weak current near the hill. Although the water of the bitter sea was raging at this moment, they could clearly feel that a small, unique stream of water surrounded the hill. There is a steady flow of water penetrating under the hill. Under the hill, there must be a bottomless pit. Suyu analyzed. Everyone on the ship was overjoyed. The passage was really here. Their speculation was not wrong. But how do we push the hill away? The second princess asked straightforwardly. Suddenly, the faces of everyone on the boat stiffened. To be able to experience the erosion of the sea of bitterness for thousands of years and still exist, needless to say, its hardness was definitely not inferior to the golden flame's forbidden wood. It was simply unrealistic to smash it with a small boat. But at this moment they were deep in the boat, and it was even more impossible to leave the boat and rely on people to break it. They were afraid that once the boat was opened, the water of the bitter sea would pour in and cause all of them to rot in the boat. There was a dead silence in the boat. It was not easy to find the passage, but it was blocked by a hill. After a long while, a soft sigh came. Float to the surface of the sea. Master. Bai Wanqing's purple eyes flashed, and she spied on her master's intention. The purple-eyed demonic god patted her hand. Oh, I am about to die. If I don't go, who will? Suyu, float to the surface and let me out. I will sneak into this place again and move the hill away. With my remaining divine power, I should be able to hold on until the hill is moved away. The eldest prince and others were silent. In the current predicament, a god had to be sacrificed. No one was willing to sacrifice their life and death. The self-sacrifice of the purple-eyed demonic god moved them deeply. Suyu shook his head. No, even if you sacrifice yourself, you may not be able to move this mountain. As he spoke, he steered the boat and crashed into a fist-sized stone next to the hill. Compared to the stone, the 10-feet-long boat was no different from a behemoth. Coupled with the attributes of the material of the boat, even a god would not be able to withstand the impact. However, the result of the collision surprised all the people on the boat. They heard the boat shake violently, and a strong shock came from the bow of the boat. The whole boat was severely knocked over, and it tumbled several times in the bitter sea before it stabilized. If it were not for the special material of the golden flame's forbidden wood, this shock would have been enough to break the boat. How can a material that can withstand the attack of the bitter sea be ordinary? Suyu shook his head and said, "The rocks here have been under the tremendous pressure of the sea for many years and have become extremely heavy. Therefore, even if you sacrifice yourself, you will not be able to move the hill." Hearing this, everyone was desperate. Did they have to use the whole boat to move this mountain? "There is no other way, let me do it." Suyu sighed deeply. If he could, he would never want to use it again. But there was no other way. He pointed a finger between his eyebrows. His eyebrows squirmed, and a silver-white eyeball suddenly appeared. The moment it appeared, all the gods on the boat were shocked, and they subconsciously exclaimed, "The Tao Tai's eye." Legend has it that it was a ferocious beast of heaven and earth that fed on gods. Everyone present knew its eyes. This was the fourth time that Suyu had used the Tao Tai's eye. The more frequently he used it, the faster the Tao Tai's eye grew. Now it was in a semi-mature state. If it evolved to the mature stage, Suyu would have to feed on gods, and the Tao Tai's eye would expand infinitely, devouring more and more until Suyu could no longer satisfy the Tao Tai's eye, and he would be swallowed by it. But now there was no other way. Chapter 1254. Heaven-devouring demonic eyes. Suyu's eyebrows suddenly shone brightly, emitting a shocking devouring power. The boulder, which was the size of a hill, shook for a while and moved slowly. The giant of the bitter sea, who noticed their movements, roared again and stepped on the water of the bitter sea, like thunder. In the boat, they had vaguely seen a wall-like existence in the water. That was the calf of the giant of the bitter sea. In less than 10 breaths, the giant of the bitter sea would arrive here. The boulder was still moving slowly, gradually revealing the edge of a dark hole. The water of the bitter sea immediately rushed into the hole and poured madly into this bottomless pit. After 5 breaths, half of the hole was revealed. The hole was not big. Only when it was fully exposed could it accommodate the small boat of 10 feet in size. There were 2 breaths left. The giant of the bitter sea had arrived. The boundless huge body stood in front of them like a pillar supporting the sky. He lifted his gigantic foot that covered the sky, rolled up the water of the bitter sea, and stomped on the entrance of the cave. This stomp would not only seal the entrance of the cave, but it would also shatter the entire boat. At the critical moment, the hill was finally completely moved away and was swallowed by the eyes of Tao Tai. The whole hole finally appeared. The giant's foot was less than 100,000 feet away from their boat. For the giant, it was only a moment. However, the boat, accompanied by the huge water of the bitter sea, instantly drilled into the hole. Almost at the moment when the boat drilled into the hole, the giant's foot stepped hard. The bottom of his foot came into contact with the tail of the small boat, causing a crack to appear on the small boat. At the same time, the tail of the golden flames forbidden wood boat easily pierced the foot of the giant of the bitter sea, bringing out a handful of milky white giant blood. With the power of the giant's soul, the boat spun wildly in the hole and fell straight down. The people sitting on the boat were all shocked and on tenterhooks. However, what shocked them even more was that the giant of the bitter sea did not kill them. He squatted down, opened his mouth, and sucked in the hole fiercely. Suddenly, the water of the bitter sea stopped falling and was rolled back into the bitter sea. Suyu's boat was also swept away, and it was almost sucked back into the boat. Fortunately, Suyu's reaction was extremely fast. He stabilized the small boat, went against the current, and drilled downward with all his might. However, the suction force of the giant was getting stronger and stronger. It seemed like it wouldn't stop until it captured Suyu and the others. The countercurrent was getting stronger and stronger, and their boat was falling slower and slower. Once they could no longer hold on and were sucked back, none of them would be able to survive. Suyu's heart sank slightly. Could it be that all his efforts would be for naught in the end? However, Suyu did not give up. He clenched his teeth and continued to control the small boat. Even though the speed of the boat's sinking was getting slower and slower, he still did not give up. Every breath he took, he sank 100 feet. Every breath, he sank 8 zhang. Every breath, he sank 5 zhang. 30 feet. 20 feet. 1 zhang. 1 qi. At this point, the speed at which the small boat was sinking was negligible, and it was almost hanging in the air. As time passed, it gradually floated upwards. He couldn't take it anymore. If the death deity can do it, why can't we? Su Yu had never been resigned to his fate. How could he die here? While he was struggling, Su Yu suddenly caught a glimpse of a golden rib in the passageway. It was deeply embedded in the passageway. What was that? Su Yu was surprised for a while. There was no sign of corrosion in the bitter sea water. It must be extraordinary. Su Yu steered the small boat and slowly approached the golden rib. When he was a foot closer, he could clearly see that it was a metal-like bone, full of Buddha nature. No matter how the bitter sea water washed over it, it was not corroded at all. The bone of a Buddhist god? Su Yu was slightly stunned. He also found that on the side of the golden rib, there was a groove. It seemed that there used to be a rib in it, but now it was gone. Su Yu steered the small boat, and the stern swept the golden rib fiercely, sweeping it out of the cave wall. Suddenly, the golden rib peeled off and was sucked up along with the water. Soon, a painful roar was heard, and the suction suddenly disappeared. Su Yu and the others were freed. They followed the collapsing water column and fell madly, almost 10,000 feet in one breath. Boom! Suddenly, the small boat seemed to fall on the water, making a roaring sound. Looking out through the window, they actually appeared in another vast galaxy. The bitter sea water that had just flowed out converged into a big river, flowing into the distance, gradually merging into the galaxy and disappearing. When they looked up, their pupils shrank. Here, they saw the whole picture of the demon world. They thought it was similar to the shape of the cavern world, but now they were horrified. The shape of the demon world was shaped like a human womb. The huge womb hung in the galaxy, beating constantly. In the womb, a baby was faintly visible, sleeping. The outline of the baby was like the giant of the bitter sea, using the demon world as a pregnant womb, constantly absorbing nutrients and growing by itself. Even the 3 princes who were born in the demon world saw the full picture of the demon world for the first time. No matter how they looked at it, the demon world was like a womb dedicated to breeding the giant of the bitter sea. The water of the bitter sea was like the amniotic fluid in the womb, and the gods and royal members on the land were its nutrients. The crowd gasped and was deeply shocked by the scene in front of them. Su Yu was also a little shocked. How was this still a cavern world? In addition to the shock, everyone felt a sense of survival after a disaster. The thrilling journey could be described as ups and downs, which made people shudder with fear. A few of the gods were still trembling slightly. Fortunately, we managed to leave the demon world alive, a god said as he wiped off his cold sweat. But as soon as the voice fell, suddenly, from the cave that was still leaking the bitter sea water, a finger hundreds of thousands of feet long stretched out, as if falling from the sky, crushing their golden boat. The giant of the bitter sea still did not give up. He used his finger to pass through the demon world and crush them. Caught off guard, the boat had no room to dodge and was locked by this finger. With the horror of the giant of the bitter sea, no creature in the galaxy could resist this finger. The boat of the golden flames forbidden wood was no exception. At the critical moment, seeing that there was no way to escape, Su Yu shouted, "Fight! I don't believe I can't even kill a finger." Su Yu steered the small boat into a perfectly straight line. The 100-foot-long small boat suddenly became like a javelin, facing his finger with equal harshness. Puff! The strong body of the giant of the bitter sea was easily pierced by the bow of the boat, penetrating its finger. In the demon world, the giant of the bitter sea roared in pain, penetrating the wall. However, this move did not make the giant of the bitter sea retreat, but stimulated its fierceness. Regardless of the finger being pierced, it carried the holy power that could not be resisted between heaven and earth, crushing down. Crack! The bough of the golden flames forbidden wood broke, and cracks spread along the bow in all directions inside the boat. The second princess trembled all over, looking at the finger crushing down, and was desperate. It's over. Even Su Yu felt an emptiness in his heart, which was filled with gloom. It was really over. That kind of power that was above the galaxy could not be resisted at all. Are we really going to die here? Su Yu smiled bitterly at the corner of his mouth. He had gone through great storms and waves, but after all, he could not break through the barrier in front of him. Under such power, anyone would be full of despair. Seeing that the giant finger was like the sky, crushing them all into dust, they no longer had any chance to escape. In the end, they did not succeed in escaping. However, at this moment, Su Yu suddenly opened his eyes. He sensed a familiar aura. However, he heard a sound that shook the universe and transmitted to the soul. The giant of the bitter sea in the demon world suddenly roared in pain, as if he had suffered an unprecedented injury. So much so that he quickly withdrew his finger, ignoring Su Yu and the others who were about to be crushed to death. At the same time, the cave was quickly closed by the giant of the bitter sea. He was afraid of something. Su Yu's pupils shrank and his face was full of surprise. He rushed out of the golden boat and looked around. That fleeting breath, he would never mistake it. It was Yun Yazi. Master! Su Yu shouted excitedly towards the silent, pitch-black galaxy. However, except for his echo, there was nothing in the galaxy. Su Yu was confused. Why did Yun Yazi come, but he refused to show up? Since the relocation of the Jojo continent, he said that he had to rush to the galaxy to investigate. He had not shown up since. When he finally showed up, he helped Su Yu scare away the giant of the bitter sea and never appeared again. Chi! Suddenly, a spot of light shot from the distant starry sky and sank into Su Yu's brow. Suddenly, the voice of Yun Yazi came from inside. Master is fine, don't worry. Be careful, don't get close to the demon world again. The voice was hurried and short, and there was no other words. Su Yu was upset. What was Yun Yazi doing? Why didn't he show up? Also, what was that sound he made just now? How could it scare away the giant of the bitter sea? To what extent was his soul restored now? At the critical moment, the master came forward and finally saved Su Yu and them. The demon cave was closed, and they were finally completely out of the demon world. The few people who survived the disaster quickly left this place and arrived at an abandoned cavern world far away from the demon world. This place was devoured by the demons of the Holy Magic Hall, and there was nothing left except silence and darkness. I didn't expect to leave the demon world alive. The purple-eyed demonic god looked around and was filled with emotion. The first prince also had mixed feelings. What he experienced in the past 6 months was more thrilling than what he had experienced in his life. Especially when he entered the bitter sea and escaped from the demon world at the last moment, it was even more dangerous. Raising his head and looking at Su Yu, the first prince sincerely bowed. Thank you, Brother Su. Without you we, the descendants of the demon royal family. After a pause, he shook his head and sighed. It should be said that we 3 reincarnated clones had no way to escape. The second princess smiled and said, Thank you. If you need any help in the future, just say the word, and I will help you to the end. The one who had not spoken was the 6th princess. After a long silence, the 6th princess sighed and said, Thanks to you, we can leave the demonic world. I think the Holy Magic Hall will soon catch up with us. Could you please help us to the end and remove our royal breath? Su Yu looked at her and looked at the first prince, who bowed his head in silence, with a hint of sarcasm in the corner of his mouth. Helping you to remove the royal breath is a promise, and I will do it. However, let me ask, what are you going to do? At some point, the 6 city masters who followed them quietly surrounded Su Yu, the purple-eyed demonic god, and Bai Wanqing. The first prince and the 6th princess each pulled out an emperor-based saint artifact. Chapter 1255. The second princess was dumbfounded. Big brother, sixth sister, what are you doing? Are you crazy? How can you treat your allies like this? The sixth princess shook her head and sighed. Sister, we have a common goal in the demon world, so we are allies, but look around, where are we? Xing River. The creatures of Xing River and the creatures of the demon world have always been incompatible. Back in Xing River, Su Yu regained the identity of the acting god of the Great Eastern Alliance. But they were still demons. There was an irreconcilable relationship between them. Su Yu's actions along the way were unpredictable, and they could never see what he would do next. Even as allies, what they saw along the way made them feel frightened. The eldest prince said in a deep voice, Su Yu is too dangerous, we have to guard against him. The first prince and the sixth princess suddenly changed their expressions. It was unexpected. However, Su Yu and the purple-eyed demonic god were calm, as if they had already expected it. Ha ha ha, you are indeed the best royal descendants of the demon world. You will choose to fight against each other, and I would have done the same. Su Yu laughed. The eldest prince and the sixth princess's pupils shrank. You expected this again? Of course. I don't believe it. The sixth princess said vigilantly. She did not believe that Su Yu had analyzed the current situation before he left the demon world. At this moment, behind the eldest prince and the sixth princess, there was a sudden gust of wind. The eldest prince was seriously injured, and the blood of the giant of the bitter sea remained in his body, so he had no time to resist. He was hit by the wind and immediately vomited blood, falling into a semi-conscious state. The sixth princess was intact and turned around angrily. How dare you betray us? The ones who attacked were not bystanders, but the 6 city lords who were loyal to the eldest prince and the second princess. We have never betrayed you because we have never been loyal to you. We have always been loyal to the Sea-Watch City Lord. The 6 city lord gods had a cynical look on their faces. The 6th princess felt dizzy. How can you be loyal to him? Why are you loyal to him? It's very simple. He can take us away from the demon world, that's all. As for you, a group of princes and princesses who can't even protect themselves, why do you deserve our loyalty? The 6 city lord gods surrounded the 6th princess. The 6th princess was sad. Their betrayal was like a bolt from the blue. When did this happen? The 6th princess gritted her teeth. 1 month before the coup. The 6 city lord gods said with a faint smile, the early-stage prospective deity emissary he sent convinced us. How could you be convinced so easily? If you don't choose the coup, wouldn't it be better to stay in the devil realm? The 6th princess said. The 6 city lords' faces darkened, and they sneered. Are you still pretending not to know? We, the deities, are well aware of how the Holy Magic Hall has developed step by step from nothing, from weak to strong. The 6th princess's face darkened. In the beginning, there were only demonic gods of 6 paths in the Holy Magic Hall, and now there were hundreds of demonic gods. Where did they come from? Of course, they did not appear out of thin air. Rather, they were transformed from city lords. The change of the demon Cloud City Master explained everything. This was an open secret, and all the city lords and deities had a tacit understanding. Once you are taken into the Holy Magic Hall, you will completely lose your freedom and eventually become a monster. The 6 of us have long wanted to escape from the Devil Realm, but there is no way. In the long run, we will one day be transformed into the monsters of the Holy Magic Hall. And the emissary of the Sea-Watch City Master gave us a chance to escape from the Devil Realm, so of course we chose to be loyal to him. Hearing this, the 6th princess was speechless. It turned out that from the very beginning, all the princes and princesses had been schemed against. The city lords that they thought they were loyal to had, in fact, become Su Yu's men long ago. But you have already left the Devil Realm. The Xing River is vast, and you can go wherever you want. Do you still need to continue to be loyal? The 6th princess rolled her eyes. "Oh, your Royal Highness, there is no need to sow discord. We can see it more clearly than you. This is the Xing River, the land of all living beings. Once we demonic gods appear, we will be incompatible with each other. How long can we live in the Xing River? The Sea-Watch City Master promised us that as long as we are under his control and do not harm the Xing River, he can give us the status of Xing River gods, and we do not have to worry about being attacked." The sixth princess gritted her teeth and stared at Su Yu fiercely. "You bastard, you have everything planned out. However, do the six of you think that you can suppress me?" The sixth princess's mouth evoked a cold, murderous intent. The six city gods smiled faintly. "Of course, we can't suppress you, but the Sea-Watch City Master has prepared some gifts for you. Chi." The six of them took out several blood-red centipedes at the same time, exuding an amazing corrosive smell. If it was not the blood of the giant of the bitter sea, what could it be? Where did you get this?" The sixth princess's pupils shrank, showing her inner fear. How the seventh prince died tragically under the blood of the giant of the bitter sea, she remembered it vividly. But she remembered very clearly that the blood-red centipedes prepared by the seventh prince were not taken away by the other three city gods, and they should have been buried in the mouths of the monsters of the Holy Magic Hall. Of course, it was the Sea-Watch City Lord who secretly ordered us to demand it from them. The three city lord gods are also our people. It's a pity that they were dragged down by those stupid princes and princesses and couldn't escape. What? The sixth princess was completely shocked by Su Yu's means and lost her temper. She thought she was clever, but in Su Yu's hands, she was only qualified to be played. "Your Royal Highness, it was not easy to escape from the demon world. It is better to obediently surrender to the Sea-Watch City Master and cherish your life. It is better to fall into her hands than to become food in the mouth of the giant of the bitter sea." Looking around at the deadly blood-red centipedes, the sixth princess smiled bitterly and stared at Su Yu viciously. "Did you want to control us princes and princesses like this from the beginning?" "No." Su Yu shrugged. "I'm just guarding against your betrayal. If you do your part, I'll dissolve your royal aura, and we'll go our separate ways. But if you have ulterior motives, these backup plans are prepared for you." Hearing this, the sixth princess was stunned. "What you said is true. Well, there is no need to lie to you." A bitter smile bloomed on the sixth princess's red lips. She and the eldest prince thought they were clever, but they were caught in a trap of their own making. After struggling for a long time, she said, "Then what do you want to do to me? It is impossible to let you go. You two are too strong. If there is no way to win, it will be difficult to deal with you, so I can only control you in the palm of my hand." They could only blame themselves for having disloyalty. Su Yu had to be wary of them. "How do you control it?" the sixth princess asked. The six city gods looked at each other and smiled. One of the gods took out two six-colored marks. "I have prepared them for you." "You!" The sixth princess was annoyed and even prepared the 6 god marks. "Your Royal Highness, let me remind you that this is a special 6 god mark. Unless the 6 of us act at the same time, even if you find 100 gods, you can't solve it. And if you are not careful, you may trigger the mark and kill you." The sixth princess smiled bitterly. Had even the last loophole been blocked? The 9 god marks of Puppy could be erased directly if the 9 gods were found. Chapter 1256. As for the 6 of them, could they unlock the mark? Not to mention that the sixth princess had always been cruel and merciless to traitors, it was Su Yu who could give them benefits now, not them. It was absolutely impossible to unlock the mark for the siblings. After struggling for a long time, the sixth princess finally lowered her proud head. She and the sleeping prince were both implanted with the mark of the 6 gods. The other end of the mark was held in Su Yu's hands, and with a single thought, he could destroy them in an instant. The descendants of the 2 strongest deities of the demon world were firmly held in the palm of Su Yu's hand. Especially the eldest prince. with his strength at his peak, looking at the galaxy, except for the first demon emperor, the god of death, and the demonic god of six paths, who could rival him. At least, in the East and West alliances, no one was his opponent. Coupled with the sixth princess, who was comparable to the Dakini, and the six city masters, the power that Su-Yu had was terrifying. Ha ha ha! With a chuckle, the dog emerged from the nine-jade spiritual pearl, smiled, and stretched out its paw to touch the head of the sixth princess. Sister, congratulations, you are going to be a dog too, ha ha ha! Why am I so happy? Ha ha ha! The sixth princess's face turned blue. Dog. Baby. Yes, and it must be a dog who can warm the bed. Boom! The sixth princess was stunned as if she had been struck by lightning. Ha 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 ha! I can finally turn the other princes into dogs. Wah ha ha ha! Why can't I stop laughing? Ha ha! The dog stood with her legs akimbo, looking up to the sky and laughing. Even if her stomach was cramping, she couldn't stop laughing. Everyone stared at her, their foreheads full of black lines. It's over, the ninth princess is crazy. What about me? Su-Yu, what are you going to do with me? The second princess interrupted at the wrong time. Su-Yu glanced at her. You? Your strength is average, and you are just a freeloader. Fend for yourself, I don't care about you. Who are you calling a freeloader? How can you say such insulting words without hiding it? Well, I'll put it euphemistically, you are a freeloader. That sounds a little better. Wait, this is still a freeloader. I won't do it. Since you brought me away from the devil realm, you must be responsible for me. Although she was straightforward, she was not stupid. Think about it, if the daughter of the demon emperor appeared in the galaxy, what kind of wonderful things would happen once the news spread? Of course, it was a group of gods from the galaxy who would capture her and conduct human research on her. Then, they would make her into a specimen for a traveling exhibition. Following Su-Yu was undoubtedly the safest choice. Only then did Su-Yu heave a sigh of relief. From the moment he entered the demon dimension until now, Su-Yu's nerves had been stretched taut and he hadn't been able to rest. Where is this place in the Xing River? Su-Yu asked. One of the city lord gods said, I have a map of the Star River that I prepared many years ago in case I need to escape. I have no use for it now, so I'll give it to you. Su-Yu took it, unfolded it, and immediately confirmed his location. He then said in surprise, Why are we here? In the map, he was extremely far away from the Great Eastern Alliance, but only a month away from the Great Western Alliance. The Demon Realm is so close to the Great Western Alliance? This is rather unbelievable. The demon god who gave the map said, The Great Western Alliance is indeed close to the Demon Realm and has been attacked by the Demon Realm all year round. Because of this, there are many strong people in the Alliance who fight against the demons and have very effective means. Unlike the gods of the Great Eastern Alliance, the Great Western Alliance has achieved great unity. All the gods obey the orders of the Alliance Master, and each god has set up an anti-demon team to obey the orders of the Alliance Master at any time and unite to fight against the demons. Su-Yu vaguely remembered that Linlang came from a famous anti-demon family. Could it be that Linlang actually came from the Great Western Alliance? Unfortunately, Linlang was not found in the demon realm. If she had been found, she could have been brought back. At this moment, the sixth princess looked into the distance. There are creatures approaching. The rest of the gods examined it carefully for a while before they could confirm it. It could be seen that the strength of the sixth princess was higher than them. Who is it and how strong is it? Su-Yu asked. It should be the people of the Great Western Alliance. They often have investigation teams that come to the vicinity of the demon realm to explore. The sixth princess said, As for the strength, it is most likely not high. The investigation team is actually cannon fodder, and 9 out of 10 will be annihilated by the demon soldiers. The strength of this group is not high, and the strongest is only the third realm of the Dust Fairy. Moreover, they have encountered a little trouble. A team of patrolling demon soldiers found them and are quietly moving towards them. They still don't know it. The sixth princess looked at Suyu. Do you want to go and help the demon soldiers and kill them all? She still couldn't completely change her position from the demon realm and subconsciously thought for the sake of the demon realm. No, let's go and have a look. Swish, all the gods instantly teleported away. In the starry sky, a medium-sized warship quietly slid in the Xing River towards the demon realm. On the warship, there were strong people of different ages. The leader was an old man with a broken arm. He was stooped and had a fierce face. The rest of the people were mostly fierce people. Among the crowd, there was a 10-year-old girl with fair makeup. Her eyes were bright and kind, and she was as chubby as a porcelain doll. She stood out from the crowd of vicious people. Boss Wu, it's almost enough. If we go forward, it will be very easy to be discovered by the demon soldiers. A strong man of the second realm of the Dust Fairy said cautiously. The old man with a broken arm was their Boss Wu. Do you think I don't want to retreat? Boss Wu said gloomily. But the damned Jade Feet anti-demon guards have left a mark on our warship. If we do not follow the agreement and sail into the demon realm to explore, the mark will record it. In this way, our year of hard work is equivalent to a waste. A group of fierce people was annoyed. Damn anti-demon guards, they rarely enter the demon realm, but they want us to come in, they are clearly forcing us to die. The most hateful thing is that they have left a seal on us. We must do as they say, otherwise we will die without a burial place. Hey, we are all condemned prisoners. If we want to live, we have to accept the task. As they were talking, suddenly Boss Wu's face froze. Silence. There seems to be movement. The warship suddenly became quiet, and pairs of shining eyes searched in the darkness. Suddenly, they finally found that a warship carved from white bones was rushing towards them. On the white bone ship, there were dozens of strong demon soldiers. The lowest cultivation level was the Dust Fairy realm, and the highest was a blood-red early-stage quasi-god. It's a quasi-god. Boss Wu took a deep breath and his face was filled with horror. At this moment, he did not dare to have the courage to sail forward. He shouted, "Turn the rudder, retreat!" Amidst the fierce roars, the creatures on the ship were all alarmed. They controlled the warships to flee in panic. The demon soldiers who had already discovered them quickly chased after them. Compared with them, the white bone ship of the demon soldiers was faster, and soon caught up with them. On the white bone ship, more than a dozen small boats descended from all directions, surrounded the warship that could not escape, and slowly approached. Hey, the Great Western Alliance has sent a big supplement again. Eat as much as you want. The early-stage quasi-god sneered and stood on the bow of the ship with his arms crossed, enjoying the panic and despair of the warship crew. At this moment, the warship crew were all pale and desperate. It's over. We can't go back. Boss Wu had seen great winds and waves, and he calmed down at the moment of crisis. His eyes flashed with viciousness, and his remaining right hand stretched out like an eagle's claw, hooked a crew member next to him, and then threw him out of the ship and into the galaxy. Boss Wu, what are you doing, ah? Before he could resist, he was surrounded by the demon soldiers' boat. They fished him out and devoured him on the spot. The bloody scene greatly stimulated their nerves and stimulated their instinctive desire to survive. They saw Boss Wu's intention and threw out the crew to distract the demon soldiers in front of the ship, and took the opportunity to escape. No matter how far they could escape for a while. Boss Wu did not blink and threw out another crew member. The demon soldiers in front of the ship were once again distracted. But beside Boss Wu, no one dared to stand. Boss Wu's eyes flashed coldly, and he rushed into the crowd like lightning and grabbed. The crew members were shocked and tried their best to escape. Boss Wu grabbed a few times, but missed. Finally, he suddenly hooked and caught a crew member who could not escape in time. Boss Wu didn't even look at her, and threw her out without saying a word. The person who was thrown was still in the air, and she let out a crisp scream. Taking a closer look, he saw that it was the 10-year-old girl who had just appeared. Her eyes widened in fear and anger, but her body was completely out of control, and she was thrown out of the ship. The demon soldiers below were all excited, and they screamed and rushed toward this place. All of them opened their bloody mouths, looking forward to eating this tender crew member. Looking at the ferocious face in front of her, the girl screamed in fear and fainted on the spot. Many demon soldiers rushed over like locusts, rushing to eat her. However, just as they were about to enter the hole, a boundless divine power stirred up the galaxy, broke through the layers of obstacles, and first pierced through the white-boned ship of the demon soldiers. The early-stage prospective god on the ship, who still had a playful smile on his face, was turned into nothingness by the divine power. He did not even have time to react. The hull of the ship was pierced, and it quickly sank. All the demon soldiers on the ship fell into the galaxy. The terrifying power brought by the divine power set off a huge wave in the galaxy, and all the small boats were capsized in an instant. Even the battleship was fluttering and about to be overturned. Boss Wu was shocked. God! Demon God! Staring at the end of the sky, at the black demonic cloud moving toward them, everyone on the battleship was in despair. Swoosh! A streak of purple light flashed, and a fiend celestial shimmering with purple light and a handsome silver-haired fiend celestial appeared. They did not attack the battleship, but the silver-haired demon grabbed the 10-year-old girl who had fallen into the galaxy and fainted. Chapter 1257. Su Yu stared at the one-armed old man, his eyes filled with a chilly killing intent. The one-armed old man's heart turned cold, and his dry lips continued to tremble. Lord Demon God, if she's not enough, there's still a ship full of people. Please let me live. The crew members were horrified and furious. There is no need for that, as I only want your life, Su Yu said coldly. Schwa, without him needing to do anything, a city lord fiend celestial flicked his finger and reduced him to dust. What about the others? Kill them too? Su Yu looked at them, who were panicking, and shook his head slightly. There is no need for that. I have something to ask them. Leaping onto the warship, Su Yu hugged the little girl in his arms and asked, Why is she on the warship? Who are you people? Based on their appearances, most of the people present were vicious and evil people. But the little girl in his arms was Gongsun Wuxia. She had come to the Great Eastern Alliance with the all-access merchant ship. How could she appear in the team of the Great Western Alliance and be associated with these vicious people? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Su Yu wouldn't have believed that this was Gongsun Wuxia. She was here, but why didn't she see the severed fairy cliff master? When the crew members met Su Yu's gaze, they all trembled in fear. We are death row prisoners of the Great Western Alliance, and she is also a death row prisoner. We were assigned a task to come to the Devil Realm to investigate the enemy. Only by completing the task can we go back alive. Otherwise, the prohibition in our bodies will activate and kill us. Death row prisoners? Su Yu raised his brows. Why was Gongsun Wuxia on death row? The sixth princess. Take a look at her prohibition and see if you can lift it. The sixth princess glanced at her, then at the rest of the prisoners, frowned and said, Strange, is she special? She's also a death row prisoner, but the other death row prisoners' prohibitions were all set by prospective gods. She's the only one that was set by a god. It can't be removed? Su Yu's eyes narrowed. The sixth princess shook her head. The prohibition is very special. It is mixed with the divine blood of the deity itself. Unless the divine blood of the deity is taken out, the prohibition will only be activated and she will be killed. Looking at Gongsun Wuxia's face, which was in a coma due to shock, Su Yu's heart was in turmoil. Why was she stranded in the Great Western Alliance? Why were they targeted by the gods? Let's go to the Great Western Alliance first. Su Yu's expression was a little cold. What should we do with them? The sixth princess's crystal eyes curved into a crescent, bursting a dangerous arc. Suyu calmly looked at them. Let them fend for themselves. Judging from the aura of the prisoners, most of them were ferocious people. Why should he save them? This place was so close to the demonic world, and with such a huge commotion, it would definitely attract other demonic soldiers. They would not be able to escape. The sixth princess said regretfully, "Master is too kind. If she could, she preferred to kill people herself." Whoosh, the 9 gods condensed into a huge cloud of magic and flew towards the Great Western Alliance. Demon World. On the seashore, staring at the furious and roaring giant of the bitter sea, the deities were terrified, fearing that the giant of the bitter sea would turn around and eat them all. "He's injured. It's a very serious injury," Princess Yunxia said. They had also sensed the soul-piercing roar that had shaken the universe and shocked the entire universe just now. To them, the power of the middle level was a power that reigned supreme. Even the powerful giant of the bitter sea had been injured. In the Xing River, is there such a powerful man hidden? The demonic god of 6 paths murmured. Princess Yunxia shook her head and nodded. No one can say for sure. After all, the Xing River was a part of the ancient god realm in the past. It is not impossible that there are powerful men left in the ancient god realm. Ancient god domain. All the fiend celestials were shocked. No matter who that person is, he did not intend to continue to hurt the first demon emperor. I guess he must have been restricted, otherwise he would not have given up so easily, so he is not a threat for the time being. Princess Yunxia's words changed, and her murderous intention was obvious. However, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess have escaped. They are the reincarnation clones of the first demon emperor. In the past, the undead demon emperor escaped, but now 3 more clones have escaped, which is very bad for the first demon emperor's 1,000 demon reincarnation curse. We must catch them back. If we can't, we must bring back their flesh and blood. The demonic god of 6 paths stood up. Let me lead people to catch them. The commander of the Holy Magic Hall will go in person? Everyone was surprised. For many years, the demonic god of 6 paths had never volunteered to carry out an arrest mission, nor had he stepped out of the demonic realm. Princess Yunxia shook her head. You? No, the demonic realm has just experienced chaos, and the people are not stable. It needs to be suppressed. You can't leave. No. I have to go. For the first demon emperor and for myself. For yourself. Yes. I felt a trace of curse on Inu. The indifferent face of the demonic god of 6 paths was full of hatred. That is the mark left by my son. Princess Yunxia was stunned. The mixed child you sent to the Jiuzhou cavern world to prove his position as a god? It was not a secret that the demonic god of 6 paths had a child with mixed blood of humans and demons. Because of this, the demon emperor was furious, and he killed the half-human half-demon child. As a result, the demonic god of 6 paths secretly sent the child to the land of divine remains, where he grew up. Finally, he was sent to a declining cavern world to swallow the whole cavern world and become a god. Unexpectedly, a few years ago, the news of the death of the child came. Unexpectedly, the murderer was so far away. He must have used some means to hide the curse, but he can't hide it from me at a close distance. He is the murderer who killed my son. Princess Yunxia frowned slightly. She knew that the half-human half-demon child was a knot in his heart. If she insisted on stopping him, it would be bad. In the current demonic realm, except for the first demon emperor, the demonic god of 6 paths was the strongest. After thinking for a while, Princess Yunxia nodded. Okay. I allow you to go, but only 10 deities can help you. The rest of the deities of the Holy Magic Hall would stay to calm the chaos in the demonic realm. Okay. The demonic god of 6 paths agreed. Book deity, you are familiar with the Star River. You can lead the way. Kalen, you are responsible for serving the demonic god of 6 paths. General Whitebone, you will lead a few deities who have just joined the Holy Magic Hall. Yes. Finally, Suyu will either be captured alive or dead. Do you understand? Yes. Then let's go. At the altar, watching them leave, Princess Yunxia returned to the ruins of the palace. Suyu, as soon as you entered the demonic realm, you turned the world upside down. Princess Yunxia was secretly resentful. If there was no Suyu, the coup of the princes and princesses would have been snuffed out when they were still young. As a result, Suyu planned the coup ahead of time and caught her off guard. Although the coup was quelled, it affected the hearts of many city masters. Because the news that Suyu, the 3 princes and princesses, and the 6 demonic city masters had successfully escaped from the demonic realm could not be hidden from them. After all, the heavy injuries suffered by the giant of the bitter sea could not be hidden from them as deities. From the information she had grasped, many city master deities were regretful, especially some deities who had been persuaded by Suyu's early-stage prospective deities. They felt even more regretful. Therefore, many city master deities were eager to make a move. Many deities had secretly sent spies to the vicinity of the bitter sea to find clues and find a second passage. In this regard, Princess Yunxia felt very troubled. Rebellion was not terrible. What was terrible was that they did not rebel, and it was difficult to predict when they would launch a coup again. For this reason, Princess Yunxia had to spend a lot of energy to use both kindness and power to deter them. At the same time, the forces of the Holy Magic Hall that had been sent out had to be brought back to stabilize the interior of the demonic realm. Damn it! The first demon emperor will lose a lot of nutrients, and the time of breaking the womb and becoming a middle-level deity will be delayed for at least 10 years. Princess Yunxia was angry and resentful. Suyu, a little boy, had hindered the ambitious plan of the first demon emperor. Breaking the womb and becoming a middle-level deity. The evil god said that the wilderness of the Xing River could not give birth to middle-level deities. But what if all the resources in the Xing River were collected? Through the demonic soldiers of the Holy Magic Hall, all the creatures in the world would be devoured, and then the first demon emperor would devour these demonic soldiers, indirectly plundering the resources of the entire Xing River. Finally, with the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons, there might be a chance to break the shackles. Suyu, you'd better pray that you can escape the pursuit of the demonic god of 6 paths, or you will be in so much pain. The demonic god of 6 paths attached great importance to that child. Somewhere in the Xing River, a desolate cavern world was devoured by the demons. Yun Yazi was transparent and looked extremely weak. The roar that scared away the first demon emperor came at an extremely high price. Yun Yazi, whose soul had not yet recovered, was seriously injured again. Has the demon emperor grown so much? Yun Yazi frowned. Looking at his body, he will break the womb in less than 10 years. At that time, the entire Xing River will become his food after he is born. The situation in the Xing River is critical. If this part of the ancient god realm is destroyed, I don't know if it will alarm those outside the Xing River. In the vast Xing River, a group of demonic clouds covered the sky and the earth as they flew towards the Great Western Alliance. In the demonic cloud, Suyu sat cross-legged, and Gongsun Wuxia leaned on Suyu's legs. In the midst of swaying, Gongsun Wuxia slowly woke up. When she opened her eyes, a silver-haired demon came into view. Ah! Gongsun Wuxia screamed, punched her pink fists and shouted, "Don't eat me! I haven't taken a bath for 3 years, and I haven't changed socks for 10 years. I stink, very stink." She didn't dare to look directly at the demon in front of her, and closed her eyes for a while. Suyu chuckled mischievously and said, "I don't mind. I'll throw you into boiling water and wash you clean, then you'll be delicious." Tsk, what a tender and delicious creature. I haven't tasted such a delicacy in a long time. Later, I will skewer you and roast you slowly on the fire rack. Then, I will spray the seasoning of the demon realm. tsk, it must be delicious. Chapter 1258. No. I don't want to be burned, I don't want to be barbecued. I don't want to be eaten. Hee, then how do you want me to eat you? Boo-hoo, I don't want to be eaten, please let me go. Well, I can let you go, but you have to let me eat a bite. Can I not eat it? No. Well, okay then, where do you want to eat? Gongsun Wuxie still didn't dare to look at Suyu, and subconsciously covered her flat chest. You can't eat it here, there's nothing here, and if you eat it, it won't grow. Suyu laughed secretly. Even if you don't eat it, it won't grow, right? Then how about I eat a finger? Okay, but only one. You said it's only one. Gongsun Wuxie reached out her index finger with trepidation, but suddenly changed her mind and replaced it with her little finger. Eat this. Suyu was secretly amused. He leaned over and put his lips on her finger, as if he was going to bite it. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts! Gongsun Wuxie screamed immediately, tears coming out of her eyes from the pain. Suyu loosened his mouth and couldn't help but laugh. I haven't even started biting, Wuxie, and you are already so scared. If I really bite you, won't you die of pain? Gongsun Wuxie, who was struggling, was suddenly stunned. What did you call me? How do you know my name? She didn't remember telling the name of this man-eating devil before. Moreover, why did his voice sound so familiar? Although it was deeper than before, it was obviously a disguise. She closed her eyes tightly, and quietly and carefully opened them a little, for fear that if she opened them too wide, the demon would bite her. Through the small gap, the demon's nose, mouth, and jaw could be vaguely seen. Hey, he seems really familiar. Gongsun Wuxie opened her eyes a little wider, and when she saw his full face, her eyes widened. You are. Because she was too shocked, Gongsun Wuxie opened her mouth and tried to breathe, trying to call out Suyu's name, but she couldn't, as if she was choked by something. Unable to call out Suyu's name for a long time, she burst into tears, hugging his neck and crying. Suyu was amused. He patted her back and comforted her. After crying for a long time, Gongsun Wuxie finally stopped crying. She glared at Suyu angrily, opened her small mouth, and bit Suyu's shoulder. She mumbled, "That's what you get for scaring me. That's what you get for scaring me. I'll bite you back." Kiss. Suyu pushed her away and turned his head to take a look. There really was a bite mark on his shoulder. You're really going to bite me? Who told you to scare me? Gongsun Wuxie said indignantly. Recalling her performance just now, her face turned bright red, and she wished she could find a hole in the ground to hide in. What happened just now was too embarrassing. You two are kissing each other, don't you want to look at the occasion? The second princess interjected inappropriately. Gongsun Wuxie looked around, and her face turned pale in an instant. They're all demons. Suyu, why aren't they eating you? The second princess stared at her. What is the image of the devil race in your galaxy? There was not much difference between the residents of the fiend realm and the creatures in the universe. It was the group of transformed monsters in the Holy Magic Hall that swallowed Holy Spirit. Seeing Gongsun Wuxie's frightened look, the second princess pouted. Don't worry, we won't eat you. Suyu didn't eat us. How would we dare to eat you? Gongsun Wuxie's eyes widened. Ah. Suyu, you really eat people, eat demons. Feeling helpless, Suyu covered his chest with his right palm and took out the demon blood in his body. In this way, he transformed into the form of a demon and quickly faded away, returning to the appearance of a human. They are now under my command, so they are my people. Gongsun Wuxie pointed to the sixth princess. Including her? She doesn't seem to be a mortal fairy, does she? Mortal fairy, not really. Suyu was speechless. What about her? She's not a mortal fairy, is she? Gongsun Wuxie pointed to the second princess. No. What about him? What about them? None of them, Suyu said. Gongsun Wuxie suddenly turned over, raised her neck like a little peacock and said, "What? You scared me to death. It turns out that they are all small fish in the demon race. They don't even have the boundary of the mortal fairy realm." With that, Gongsun Wuxie clenched her small fist, and a trace of the mortal fairy's power burst out. "See? Do you know what this is? It's the great power of the mortal fairy, and it can smash you, who don't even have a mortal fairy, in an instant," Gongsun Wuxie said proudly. Hearing this, the gods, including the sixth princess, couldn't help but laugh. They were not like the other gods, who emitted divine light at any time. Because of the revealing of their original bodies, Gongsun Wuxie did not think of them as a higher level of the realm of the gods. Instead, she could not see through their cultivation, thinking that it was because of the special physique of the demon race. She took it for granted that they were a group of scum who didn't even have the realm of a mortal fairy. "Humph! How dare you laugh at me? What a group of demons who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Gongsun Wuxie grinned and grinned, but her threatening look made them laugh even more. "Well, let's hurry to the Great Western Alliance." Suyu was also amused, but he knew Gongsun Wuxie's temper. If she continued to make trouble, she would really start a fight, so he spoke up to dissuade her. "The gods just went their separate ways." "Humph, you should feel lucky that Brother Suyu saved your lives." Gongsun Wuxie looked like a master. Suyu looked at Gongsun Wuxie and said, "Your cultivation has broken through so quickly, so the power of the immortal herb in your body has been dissolved?" Gongsun Wuxie's little face was bitter, and she pointed to her body that was still like a little girl. "Do you think it looks like it has been dissolved?" "No," Suyu said. Gongsun Wuxie was very distressed. "The glittering jewel fairy scepter you gave me did purify part of the medicine, so that my cultivation was no longer limited to the 9th grade fairy. Under my father's voluntary cultivation, I barely broke through the realm of the mortal fairy, but my body did not get any better." Suyu understood and thought about it. "By the way, how did you become a death row prisoner? What about the Duanxian Cliff Master?" Unexpectedly, as soon as Suyu asked, Gongsun Wuxie's little face became gloomy. Gradually, her eyes filled with tears, and then turned into crystal tears. Finally, she threw herself into Suyu's arms and cried loudly, "Father is dead! The Duanxian Cliff Master was dead?" Suyu was shocked, but he was not too sad. As long as his breath existed in the world, resurrecting him was just a matter of thinking. The problem was that resurrecting a dead person in front of them was more or less troublesome. This matter could be discussed later. "How did he die? Speaking of which, when we parted that day, you were still in the Great Eastern Alliance. Why did you appear in the Great Western Alliance?" Gongsun Wuxie sobbed for a long time before she said, "Father was originally a member of the Great Western Alliance, a member of the top 10 anti-demon families. Although he was not a direct descendant of the gods, he was indeed from the family of the god." Suyu was not surprised at all about this. As early as in Jiuzhou, the Duanxian Cliff Master gave people a sense of mystery, including his origin, and no one knew. Finally, when the Jiuzhou continent migrated, his identity as a non-Nuzu creature was exposed. Now, it was not surprising that he had another identity as a descendant of the god. Father was persecuted by his people, and was forced to leave the Great Western Alliance. For some reasons, he hid in the Jiuzhou cavern world until the Jiuzhou continent migrated, then returned to Xing River and took root in the Great Eastern Alliance. Suyu frowned and said, "Persecuted? So, you came to the Great Western Alliance for revenge, but were taken advantage of by the enemy?" "No." Gongsun Wuxie shook her head and said, "Father knows that he can't take revenge on his own now, so he is ready to take root in the Great Eastern Alliance and gradually cultivate his own forces." Suyu was surprised. "How did the Duanxian Cliff Master die? How did you end up in the Great Western Alliance and become a death row prisoner?" "My father and daughter were extradited to the Great Western Alliance by the Great Eastern Alliance. Gongsun Wuxie clenched her fists, her eyes full of hatred. Extradition? Who decided? Suyu was shocked. It was decided by the gods at a meeting to arrest all the wanted criminals of the Great Western Alliance and hand them over to the Great Western Alliance. My father and I were arrested by the Great Eastern Alliance and sent to the Great Western Alliance. Shortly after my father came, he was persecuted to death. I was also controlled by them and became cannon fodder to explore the demon world. Suyu frowned deeply. Why did the Great Eastern Alliance do this? If they wanted to extradite us, they would have extradited us a long time ago. Why wait until today? I heard that it was to cooperate with the Great Western Alliance, so we had to be sacrificed as a gift to the Great Western Alliance. Suyu thought about it and said, Are you ranked high on the wanted list of the Great Western Alliance? Not high. My father is just an inconspicuous member of a family of gods. He can only be regarded as a 6th-level wanted criminal, much higher than those high-level wanted criminals. Gongsun Wuxie said, Moreover, the enemies of the Great Western Alliance did not know that we were in the Great Eastern Alliance, nor did they request to extradite us by name. My father and daughter were very low-key in the Great Eastern Alliance. My father and I could not figure out why we were extradited. At the same time, the wanted criminals who were extradited were all notorious in the Great Western Alliance. Only my father and daughter were 6th-level wanted criminals, insignificant. Suyu listened and gradually realized that something was amiss. Have you ever found out who decided to extradite the criminals? Gongsun Wuxie shook her head. We have no foundation in the Great Eastern Alliance. Where can we find out? Besides, we were soon caught and had nowhere to ask. It was already good enough to know that it was the decision of the god. Hearing this, Suyu's heart was as clear as a mirror. Obviously, the father and daughter were deliberately put on the extradition list. Perhaps the Great Eastern Alliance has changed, Suyu murmured. He had been away for 2 years, and the situation of the Great Eastern Alliance had changed dramatically. However, now was not the time to care about the situation of the Great Eastern Alliance. He needed to go to the Great Western Alliance. Not only did he have to seek justice for the father and daughter, but there was another more important thing to do. The general direction of the meeting of the gods of the Great Eastern Alliance was not wrong. The invasion of the demon dimension was imminent, and it was time to connect the 2 great alliances of the East and West together to fight against the demons. Chapter 1259. Wuxie, I will take you back to the Great Western Alliance, Suyu said. Gongsun Wuxie shook her head vigorously. Don't go. If you stay with me, you will be regarded as an accomplice of my father and me. I don't want to implicate you. You should go back to the Great Eastern Alliance. What about you? Suyu asked tentatively. Gongsun Wuxie forced a smile. I am fine. I am free. If I hide in the Great Western Alliance, no one can find me. Suyu said, Can you really live well alone? Humph, who am I? Who can bully me? Gongsun Wuxie waved her small fist and said firmly, Go, don't worry about me. Suyu touched her head and was moved. If I don't care about you, who will help you remove the seal in your body? Gongsun Wuxie's body stiffened, and she said in surprise, You know? Looking at her pretending to be innocent and not wanting to implicate them, Suyu's heart was filled with tenderness. Although she was naughty, she was a good girl. Well, how can I leave you alone? Who put the seal on you? I will go find him, Suyu said. Gongsun Wuxie's eyes were misty, and she bit her lip. Her face was full of gratitude and emotion. She wiped her eyes and choked, No, you still care about me. I am very satisfied, but really, you don't have to. You can't deal with the person who put the seal on me. She was really touched. At the last moment of her life, she could see Suyu again and be cared for by him again. She was content. How do you know I can't deal with it if you don't tell me? Suyu laughed. You should know that I have the identity of a substitute god in the Great Eastern Alliance. Maybe it will be useful in the Great Western Alliance? Gongsun Wushia's eyes lit up. Yes, how could she forget this? After hesitating for a while, Gongsun Wuxia said, "It is the master of the Gongsun family, one of the top 10 anti-demon families. He is a real god." "Well, then go find him," Suyu said casually. Gongsun Wuxia said anxiously, "Don't be so reckless. You have to use your brain and use tactics. Otherwise, he may not value your identity and sentence you to death. That will not be worth the loss." "I see. All right, I'll go negotiate with him." "Negotiate?" Gongsun Wuxia frowned. She regretted letting Suyu stand up for her. She was very uneasy. "Yes, it must be a negotiation." Suyu repeated with a smile, "Tell me about your grievances. Why did the deities of the present age take action and put a seal on you in the end?" Gongsun Wuxia nodded and told him about the grudges between her father and the Gongsun family. It turned out that in the early years, the Duanxian Cliffmaster was just an ordinary member of the Gongsun family. He was 100,000 miles away from the dazzling direct descendants of the deities. The Duanxian Cliffmaster was humble and simple. His qualifications were also very mediocre, but he was hard-working and persevering. He stood out among the clansmen who were not of the direct line of descent. During a certain Alliance conference, the severed Fairy Cliff accidentally met the Alliance Master's 8th daughter. One was the daughter of the high and mighty Alliance leader, the descendant of a god, while the other was a mediocre aristocratic family's disciple. The two of them, who had nothing to do with each other, met later on in the expedition. A group of deities from the Holy Magic Hall led the invasion of the Devil Race army. The Alliance leader, the 8th woman, led the anti-devil team to resist, but unfortunately, she was seriously injured. Coincidentally, he was rescued by the severed Fairy Cliff Master and hid in the demon-occupied area for several years. Day and night, the severed Fairy Cliff Master meticulously moved the 8th woman. After quelling the invasion of the Devil Race, the 8th woman took the initiative to ask the Alliance Master to marry the Gongsun family's Duanxian Cliffmaster. At that time, the Alliance Master's vitality was greatly damaged. The Alliance Master's family also successively lost many strong people. The power was unstable, and the position of the Alliance Master might not be guaranteed. Therefore, in order to win over the Gongsun family and gain their support, the Alliance Master agreed. It was a beautiful thing for the lovers to get married, but in the end there was a change. When the Alliance Master's marriage was announced, Gongsun Shan, who was the first heir of the Gongsun family, was jealous. He coveted the famous beauty of the Alliance Master's 8th daughter. He was even more jealous that the person to be married was not him, the first heir, but the mediocre Duanxian Cliffmaster. He asked Gongsun deity, his father, to replace the Duanxian Cliffmaster and marry the 8th daughter of the Alliance Master. Gongsun deity, in fact, was also dissatisfied that the person to be married was not of the direct line of descent, so he personally discussed it with the Alliance Master. It was conceivable that the Alliance Master preferred Gongsun Shan, who was the first heir, so that the marriage would be closer. The two hit it off, and the marriage partner changed from the Duanxian Cliffmaster to Gongsun Shan. No matter how the 8th daughter pleaded, the Alliance Master was indifferent. The Duanxian Cliffmaster also knelt down and asked the family master for mercy, but he received a cold reprimand, asking him to focus on the overall situation. In the end, the two had no choice but to escape from the Great Western Alliance. They chose to elope all the way to the Great Eastern Alliance. The Alliance Master and Gongsun deity of the Great Western Alliance were furious and sent people to hunt them down. When they caught up, it was already a full 3 years later. During these 3 years, they hid from place to place, and because of this, they got together and gave birth to the still young Gongsun Wuxia. After a great battle, the 8th daughter was seriously injured, and the Duanxian Cliffmaster lost most of his cultivation. Even their daughter was regarded as a bastard by the people sent by the Alliance Master and killed on the spot. The eighth daughter used the only immortal spirit herb in the world to save Gongsun Wuxia's life. The medicinal effect would last for 10 years, and the medicinal effect would take shape when she was 10 years old. This was also the origin of Gongsun Wuxia's special constitution. The previous claim that she took it by mistake at the age of 10 was just a white lie that the Duanxian Cliffmaster could not bear to tell the truth. In order to protect her husband and child, the eighth daughter burned her celestial energy sphere and sent them across the border into the Jiuzhou Cavern world. Due to the existence of the Jiuzhou Cavern world barrier, the pursuers did not find them and only captured the eighth daughter. So far, the eighth daughter was still imprisoned in the heavenly prison. A good marriage alliance was broken because of their elopement. One could imagine how much the Gongsun deity's family hated the Duanxian Cliffmaster, who did not understand the overall situation. Now that they were accidentally extradited back, the Duanxian Cliffmaster was executed, and the bastard Gongsun Wuxia was not spared. After hearing this, Su Yu's eyes were full of sarcasm. What a good overall situation! Because of the overall situation, you want to give up your own woman? Such a high-sounding reason is just to cover up the Gongsun deity's partiality. Before meeting the Gongsun deity, Su Yu was already disgusted. Gongsun Wuxia was comforted in her heart. She rubbed Su Yu's palm with her little hand and whispered, "It's good that you know. When negotiating, don't show your dissatisfaction. I am really afraid that you will get yourself involved." "Oh, don't worry, didn't I say that I will negotiate well?" Su Yu sneered. A month later, in the Great Western Alliance. In terms of brightness, the Great Western Alliance was still above the Eastern Alliance. There were many gods, no less than 100. The difference was that the gods of the Great Western Alliance were all present, and there was no deity who was traveling outside. Moreover, the entire alliance exuded a tense and somber atmosphere, from the gods to the ordinary creatures. Compared with the peaceful Eastern Alliance, which was like a paradise, the Western Alliance was the other extreme. Su Yu could not help but think of the Dakini. What kind of leader creates what kind of environment? A Virgin Mary who was kind to her enemies. Under her rule, it was a loose organization that lived in a corner and had no sense of crisis. If the Eastern Alliance, like the Western Alliance, fought against the demons all year round and honed a batch of actual combat experts, when the final war came, the situation might not be so bad. Unfortunately, there were only a few years left, and wanting to change the Eastern Alliance immediately was tantamount to a fantasy. It was imperative to reach an alliance with the powerful Western Alliance. Before coming to the Western Alliance, Su Yu let the 10 gods enter the small Buddha beads of the cavern world on his wrist. Each bead could accommodate one person. Otherwise, the sudden appearance of 10 demon gods would have alarmed the entire Western Alliance. In this way, he took Gongsun Wuxia into the alliance. Unlike the Eastern Alliance, where each deity controlled their own cavern world, all the cavern worlds of the Western Alliance were connected and collectively referred to as the Alliance Continent. The gods who created the cavern world also lost their jurisdiction over the cavern world, and all their power was returned to the Alliance. The leader was the commander, followed by the heads of the 10 major anti-demon families, who were bestowed with the title of the 10 Guardian Generals. Under the Guardian Generals, each commanded 10 gods, and the gods then commanded the quasi-gods, mortal fairies, and all creation's armies. As soon as the leader gave the order, the war machine of the Western Alliance could be started. Among them, the status of the 10 major anti-demon families was not trivial. Any family controlled a huge amount of power, enough to affect the vitality of the Western Alliance, so their status was very high. Even the leader would not offend any of the families at will. The Gongsun family ranked 10th, and was ranked last among the 10 great families. Even so, no one dared to underestimate the anti-demon family. The 10 major anti-demon families were all located in the Alliance City, the largest city of the Western Alliance, for the convenience of obeying the orders of the leader. On this day, the Alliance City welcomed 2 guests. One was a girl in disguise, but could not hide her petite figure. The other was a handsome man with silver hair. When they came to the gate of the Gongsun mansion, Gongsun Wuxia hesitated, bit her lip, and pulled Su Yu's sleeve. Forget it. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this trip was full of danger. If she died alone, why should she implicate Su Yu? How can I give up now that I'm here? Su Yu pulled out his sleeve and stepped towards the main door. Gongsun Wuxia had no choice but to catch up with him. She lowered her voice and said, "Then you must restrain yourself. No matter what happens, you must be patient and never provoke the other party." Su Yu curled his lips. "You have said this to me more than 10 times along the way. Don't you find it annoying?" I am worried about you." Gongsun Wuxia was still worried. Su Yu smiled. "Don't worry, I am here to negotiate today." Yes, we must talk about it calmly." "Good, calm and collected." Su Yu nodded and walked to the main door. He gathered his energy and shouted loudly, "Gongsun deity, Gongsun Shan, get out here quickly to greet the guests." His voice was so loud that it shook half of the Alliance city. Several bustling streets seemed to have been frozen in time. Not a single sound could be heard. They had lived for so long, but this was the first time they had heard that someone dared to challenge the anti-demon families in public. Chapter 1260. Gongsun Wuxia was shocked by Su Yu's recklessness. Did he think his life was longer than the sky? She grabbed Su Yu's arm and pulled him back without saying a word. Her heart was pounding. Who dares to be so bold? After all, this was the mansion of one of the top 10 anti-demon families. How could a god be insulted by someone's mansion and still be allowed to retreat safely? A group of guards from the inner sanctum flew out of the courtyard wall and surrounded them with murderous intent. At this time, an old housekeeper in a dark green robe walked out of the mansion quickly. "This is outrageous." There were people who secretly insulted the anti-demon gods, but it was the first time the housekeeper had heard of someone who dared to come to the door and insult them. Su Yu stood upright with his hands crossed in front of his chest and said lightly, "Are you Gongsun Shan? You are so old, but you still have a lustful mind." "Don't insult the young master," the housekeeper said sharply. Su Yu frowned. "Not Gongsun Shan? I asked Gongsun Shan to come out and greet me. What are you doing here? How dare you? How dare you insult the young master's body of 1,000 venerables? Guards, arrest him." An arrogant madman like Su Yu would not be able to establish his authority without severe punishment. Su Yu snorted. "You are just a descendant of a god. You are not called a body of 1,000 venerables." Swish. He turned his palm, and a token full of divine power flickered in his palm. The guards who rushed over could not help but raise their eyebrows, and their bodies stopped abruptly, with a look of surprise on their faces. The housekeeper was also stunned. "A god's order? Are you a god?" "Yes, a substitute god." "How about it? Shouldn't your reincarnated young master come out to greet me? How can a descendant of a god be so arrogant when a god is visiting?" The housekeeper was solemn. A god was far from being offended by a housekeeper. However, the housekeeper changed his mind and said, "May I ask, Lord God, which substitute god is it?" There were several substitute gods in the Great Western Alliance, but none of them were as young as the young man in front of him. The substitute god of the crane deity of the Great Eastern Alliance. The housekeeper nodded. "Oh, the substitute god of the crane deity, please excuse me. Wait, where are you from? The Great Eastern Alliance? If not?" Su Yu asked coldly. The reverence on the butler's face was soon replaced by surprise, anger, and laughter. "What a great proxy deity of the Eastern Alliance! How dare you come to the Western Alliance to behave atrociously? Men, detain him!" The butler laughed angrily. An acting deity was indeed impressive, but if he was from the Great Eastern Alliance, this identity was like a chicken feather token. The surrounding guards heaved a sigh of relief and pounced forward again. All of them were powerhouses at the level of mortal fairies. They had a resolute and calm temperament, and their actions were capable and decisive. They were an elite troop. However, when he was just 30 feet away from Su Yu's whole body shone with golden light, and he turned into a golden dragon that swept across. The surrounding guards were like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. They were all sent flying back into the mansion. As he floated down, Su-yu returned to his human form. Faint golden light remained on the surface of his body, making him look like a golden Buddha. Since Gongsun deity and Gongsun Shan don't want to welcome me, I will be an uninvited guest. The corner of the butler's mouth twitched. Since when were you a welcome guest? Stop. Before you make a big mistake, there is still a possibility of redemption. If you step into the mansion of the anti-demon family, there will be no place for you in the Great Western Alliance. Su-yu turned a deaf ear to him. As he stepped into the mansion, he said, "First, the family that stole my wife and killed my children are not qualified to redeem me. Second, you don't have the right to say where I can stay, and neither does the Gongsun family. Only I, Su-yu, have the right to say it." Gongsun Wuxie's cherry lips opened so wide that an egg could almost be stuffed into it. When did he become so powerful? One person killed more than a dozen strong people at the level of mortal fairies? Among them, there was no lack of peak mortal fairies. She deeply remembered that in the Jiuzhou continent, Su-yu had to deal with the Central Prefecture's king, who was at the peak of mortal fairies. In just a few years, he had grown so much? Moreover, where did he get the confidence to look down on the deity's family? When they met again, Gongsun Wuxie found that Su-yu in front of her was so strange. Things had developed to this point, and her persuasion was useless. She took a deep breath, straightened her chest, and followed Su-yu into the Gongsun family that she feared and hated. Stop him. The housekeeper was exasperated. He had never looked down on the Gongsun family like this before. This time, 4 early-stage prospective deities appeared, like 4 Vajra, staring at Su-yu angrily. Breaking into the Gongsun deity's family is outrageous. Su-yu glanced at them. I am looking for the Gongsun deity and his son. It has nothing to do with you. All of you, step back. What a joke. You want us to step back? The 4 early-stage prospective deities laughed angrily. Unexpectedly, as soon as they finished speaking, Su-yu, who was in front of them, flashed with colorful lights and disappeared in the air. Almost at the same time, they felt a chill on their backs, and a strong metal-based breath suddenly broke out. Then, each of the 4 of them was punched hard, and their divine bodies were shaken, and their souls were almost shaken out. If I ask you to step back, you must step back. Su-yu turned his back to them, and walked towards the depths of the mansion. The 4 early-stage prospective deities were so shocked that they forgot to breathe. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. That punch was not only powerful, but more importantly, it contained divine power. Was that really the 3rd realm of the mortal fairy? Gongsun Wuxie was stunned. Even the early-stage prospective deities were beaten silly like onions. How strong was Su-yu? Passing the 4 early-stage prospective deities, Gongsun Wuxie chased after Su-yu all the way, barely keeping up with his pace. The housekeeper rushed over and was shocked. You can't stop him? The situation was urgent. The housekeeper took out a conch-shaped artifact from his neck and blew it immediately. Woo-woo. The low and loud sound of the conch was rapid and penetrating, spreading throughout the mansion. This was the first-level alert signal of the mansion, which would only be blown when the demon clan invaded. The guards in the mansion reacted extremely quickly, immediately soaring into the sky and scanning the whole mansion. It was easy to find that 2 unusual breaths were rampaging in the mansion, and the guards along the way were forcibly pushed away. There's an enemy attack! A group of bodyguards was filled with murderous intent as they swarmed over. In an instant, even the noon sun was covered, and the earth was plunged into darkness. Get lost! Su-yu did not look up and put his hands together. The earth behind him suddenly surged like waves, and all the seals that protected the palace were torn apart and destroyed. It was as if there was a huge monster under the earth. Swoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, a towering giant tree slowly rose from the earth, and the huge canopy covered the sky and the sun. The huge shade of the tree was so dense that the wind could not pass through, and the Gongsun family was shrouded in darkness. From the giant tree, thousands of branches suddenly stretched out, sweeping around like whips. There was a burst of pain, and the black mass of guards in the sky disappeared like dark clouds that were scattered. In just a few breaths, the mansion of the Gongsun family was razed to the ground. Chapter 1261. There, Su Yu felt the strongest breath in the mansion, a middle-stage perspective deity. There was a huge movement here, but he was still unmoved. The only explanation was that he was at a critical juncture of cultivation. "Stop him, don't let him take another step forward," the housekeeper screamed. However, where Su Yu passed, no one could stop him. Who could stop him? Who dared to stop him? Along the way, most of the mansion was razed to the ground. Su Yu arrived in front of a secret underground room that was heavily guarded. Two early-stage perspective deities stood motionless. They were still guarding this place despite such a huge movement, which showed that the status of the middle-stage perspective deity in the secret chamber was extraordinary. "It seems to be Gongsun Shan," Su Yu said to himself. His eyes turned and glanced at the two. "It has nothing to do with you, get out of the way." Without waiting for the two perspective deities to attack, Su Yu waved his hand and sent them flying with a five-colored divine light. The huge stone door was also sent flying. With a light step, Su Yu went underground without thinking and went down the long stairs to the underground chamber. It was a rather vast underground space. A young man with a ramrod-straight figure sat cross-legged in a boiling pool of blood. He was about 30 years old, with dark skin, a fierce look, and a strong murderous aura between his eyebrows. On the top of his head, a trace of blood-red silk thread was constantly pulled out from the top of his skull. Every time a trace was pulled out, his aura rose a little. "Oh, what a coincidence, breaking through to the late-stage perspective deity," Su Yu murmured, looking at the blood-red silk thread with cold eyes. Those blood-red silk threads were like illusions, entwining between the soul. Every time a trace was pulled out, the blood thread struggled and released a trace of demonic energy. Su Yu was no stranger to this thing, especially when he had just returned from the demon race. It was a heart demon. Long-term obsession and depression could give birth to a heart demon, hindering cultivation and enlightenment. The young man in front of him must have resolved the long-lost obsession and depression, and began to gradually resolve the heart demon. Judging from the gradual growth of his cultivation, he should be breaking through to the late-stage perspective deity. Dong dong dong. Gongsun Wuxia trotted all the way, and when the scene in front of her fell into her eyes, her beautiful crystal eyes rose with hatred. "Gongsun Shan! After torturing my father to death, you finally vented the grievances in your heart for many years and began to break through?" Gongsun Wuxia's body was trembling. She recalled the inhumane torture her father had suffered before he died, and his face had been changed beyond recognition. Gongsun Wuxia's slender body flickered, and she rushed forward, intending to interrupt his breakthrough. As soon as he moved, Su Yu pressed his shoulder gently. "Don't act rashly. He is surrounded by the divine enchantment set up by the Gongsun deity. If you rush over, you will be burned on the spot." With a flick of his finger, a wisp of mortal fairy's strength shot toward Gongsun Shan. When it was 1,000 feet away from him, there was a ripple in the void, as if it had struck a soft membrane. Then, the mortal fairy's strength burned silently. Even the mortal fairy's power was like this, let alone Gongsun Wuxia. "Humph, I was wondering who it was that made such a ruckus in the Gongsun mansion. So it's you, bitch. I don't know where you found this wild man." Gongsun Shan, who was in seclusion, slowly opened his eyes and sneered. "Gongsun Shan!" Gongsun Wuxia could not suppress her killing intent, and her hatred soared to the sky. Hee, this expression is exactly the same as your father's when he died. It's really pleasing to the eye. Gongsun Shan had a cruel grin at the corner of his mouth. Do you know how your father was tortured in the end? He was begging me. Gongsun Shan's smile became ferocious, and he laughed wildly. The blood in his body was extracted faster. He begged me not to hurt you anymore, but I refused. I told him that after he died, I would let you die a horrible death, 100 times more miserable than him. I would give you to the demons and eat you alive. Gongsun Shan said, so he regretted giving birth to you and giving you a painful life. That scene was so wonderful. Ha 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 ha. Immersed in the pleasure of revenge, Gongsun Shan's inner demons receded even faster, and his momentum soared sharply. Gongsun Wuxia's eyes were filled with tears. Her father died so painfully, and before he died, he was still thinking about her? You beast! Gongsun Wuxia clenched her fists, and there was only hatred left in her eyes. She would spend the rest of her life in hatred and pain. It's ridiculous. Your father robbed my woman and had an affair with her, giving birth to a bastard like you, making me a disgrace to the Great Western Alliance. How many people still laugh at me? Do you know how much pain I have suffered all these years? Gongsun Shan snapped, and his eyes were full of hatred. Your father's selfish actions caused me so much harm, have you forgotten? Ha ha ha. Suddenly Su Yu, who had not spoken, looked up to the sky and laughed. Gongsun Shan said coldly, What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at the heirs cultivated by the Gongsun family. They are too unbearable. Su Yu laughed. You are the perpetrator, but you regard yourself as the victim. It was clear that you were lustful and jealous, and persecuted their marriage. In the end, you could not get it, and you were ridiculed. Instead of repentance, you blame Wuxia's father for being selfish? According to your theory, I fancy your woman, and you are not allowed to resist. Resistance is selfish and brings harm to me? As expected, only the Gongsun clan can cultivate such a self-centered face. Gongsun Shan did not care. What is my identity? What is the identity of that mediocre bitch? Only my identity is worthy of such a marriage. Do this. Not only for the good of Feier, but also for the good of the Gongsun family, and more importantly, for the good of the Alliance Master. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being poor. Su Yu shook his head after listening to such high-sounding bandit logic. This kind of narcissistic, self-centered thinking was really not something that could be communicated with words. I don't know who you are, but since you dared to break into the Gongsun mansion, you must be prepared to be cut into pieces, right? Gongsun Shan grinned. When I break through to the late-stage perspective deity, I will do it myself. Oh, it would be best to do it in front of Wuxia. The remorseful expression of the father and daughter is really wonderful. Su Yu shrugged. Speaking of which, you are very confident in resolving your inner demons and breaking through to the late-stage perspective deity. Of course. The knot in my heart has been unraveled for many years, from repression to eruption, and breaking through to the late-stage perspective deity is a matter of course. This is all thanks to the miserable fate of the father and daughter, ha ha. Gongsun Shan laughed. When I come out of isolation, I will let the two of you taste the pain of death again. Su Yu touched his chin. It's really strange, Wuxia's father is not dead, but you are so happy. Hey, is it because you are looking forward to your woman marrying him, so the knot in your heart has been unraveled? What? Gongsun Wuxia trembled all over. Her father was not dead? Haha, what a joke. I tortured him to death with my own hands. There is no need to shake my mind here and affect my breakthrough. I am breaking through to the late-stage perspective deity. No one can stop me. Gongsun Shan smiled and took it as a joke. I never lie. Su Yu also smiled. An emerald dragon swam in his left palm, and he pointed it at the 9-jade spiritual pearl on his arm. In the 9-jade spiritual pearl, a group of emerald light gradually reconstructed a human figure. His eyebrows were relaxed, calm and restrained. Who else could it be but the Duanxian Cliffmaster? Su Yu's body contained the 10 real dragon spirit veins that the Duanxian Cliffmaster had refined, and his breath remained. It was easy to resurrect him. The Duanxian Cliffmaster was at a loss, and his face still showed the pain of death. Where is this? Duanxian Cliffmaster, I am here to inform you on the orders of my master. Master? Who? Su Yu. The Duanxian Cliffmaster's pupils shrank. My master used a great magical power to restrain your body and soul at the moment of your death and reconstruct your body. He is waiting for you in the outside world right now. After saying that, a space filled, and the Duanxian Cliffmaster, who was still confused, was swept out. The first thing he saw was Su Yu's familiar face. Although he still had great doubts in his heart, he knew that the young girl was telling the truth. He immediately knelt down gratefully. Thank you, Mr. Su, for saving my life. Father. Gongsun Wuxie opened her mouth wide in disbelief. Her father's body was deliberately carried to her. He was absolutely dead. Why did he suddenly appear beside Su Yu? The Duanxian Cliffmaster trembled and suddenly looked up. His eyes were filled with tears, and he hugged Gongsun Wuxie tightly. Wuxie, you are fine. It was brother Su Yu who saved me. Father, how are you alive? Gongsun Wuxie stuttered, unable to believe the scene in front of her. The Duanxian Cliffmaster was stunned. It was Mr. Su. He used a great magical power to save me when I was dying. Although it could not be explained, it was the only possibility. The father and daughter were reunited, safe and sound. The heartwarming scene stimulated someone. Puff, a mouthful of blood spurted out. Gongsun Shan, who had been struck by lightning, could not bear the situation in front of him. His inner demons quickly reversed, and his blood flowed in reverse. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Brother Gongsun, are you also happy for the reunion of father and daughter? You are so excited that you vomited blood, really? Impossible! Gongsun Shan's mouth was full of blood, and his eyes widened. Su Yu said, Nothing is impossible. I can use my great magical power to save his soul and rebuild his body. What's impossible about that? He waved his hand. Well, I will take the father and daughter to meet the 8th woman. Now that the family is reunited, Brother Gongsun can practice hard. Hearing this, the infinite blood flowed back even more rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, many days of hard training were in vain. Staring at the intact father and daughter, the shame in his heart condensed again. He could not let them leave, otherwise he would become a greater joke. Pop, with a loud noise, the enchantment set by the Gongsun deity was opened by Gongsun Shan. None of you can leave. Behind him, Gongsun Shan's low roar came. At the same time, there was a suffocating divine oppression that made the father and daughter suffocate. Lowly ants, this time I'll make sure you're dead. With a loud shout, Gongsun Shan flickered like a ghost, and the majestic divine power turned into a golden spear of 1,000 feet, piercing the sky, annihilating the father and daughter and Su Yu. Bang! Su Yu's mouth evoked a faint smile. He was finally fooled and walked out of the enchantment. His whole body flashed with golden light, and the gold of the 5 elements covered his fists. At the same time, the 2 celestial spirits in his body released their divine power and condensed it on his fist, colliding with the golden spear. Boom! The golden spear collapsed in one blow, and along the spear, the golden fist was like a dragon, all the way to Gongsun Shan's chest. Bang! With a loud noise, Gongsun Shan was like a stone that was smashed and slammed into the stone wall of the underground secret room, causing a violent tremor. Chapter 1262. How could a mere third-realm mortal fairy be able to exert divine power? I didn't break your body? Do you have a good defensive item on you? Is it an imitation of an emperor-based saint artifact? Su Yu walked over calmly. Gongsun Shan's eyes were full of fear. You can take them away, I will not stop you, But if you don't force me to take action, you will die and I will live. Yes, you die and I will live. Su Yu's eyes flashed and he stepped forward. Along with the shroud, there was also the overwhelming power of the 5 elements. After many days of refining, even gods could be suppressed, let alone a middle-stage perspective god. Feeling the strong oppression, Gongsun Shan screamed, bent his legs, and raised his arms to resist. However, when the power of the 5 elements completely pressed down, his legs were crushed, and he screamed in pain. He was suppressed to the ground by the power of the 5 elements and could no longer move. Su Yu walked in front of him and said lightly, "Tell me, who else do you want to make miserable?" Gongsun Shan's eyes were full of fear, and only then did he know what kind of powerful existence he was facing. Even a late-stage perspective deity might not be able to do this. Are you a god?" Su Yu touched his chin. "Sort of, the acting god of the Great Eastern Alliance." Gongsun Shan's heart was beating fast. Those who could become an acting god were never weaker than the original gods. He glanced at Gongsun Wuxia vaguely, and his hatred was restrained. He thought to himself, "This bitch, she actually knows the acting god." On his face, he begged for mercy. "I will no longer pursue the responsibility of the father and daughter, and from now on, I can swear." He didn't pursue it, but his father could. "Ha ha!" Su Yu laughed. "You still don't change your nature, and you still think that the father and daughter owe you." A glimmer of cold light filled the air, and Su Yu showed a grim smile. "You persecuted them in the past, causing them to lose their families. Now you persecuted them again, tortured the Duanxian Cliff Master to death, and sent Gongsun Wuxia to the demons. These 2 debts, have you ever thought about it?" Gongsun Shan's eyes turned sharply, and he felt great hatred in his heart. This was the retribution that the father and daughter deserved, but his face showed remorse again. "Yes, I was wrong. Forget it, it's hard to change one's nature. If you want to be forgiven with just a few words, your sins are too easy to wash away." "Then what do you want?" "A tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye, of course." Su Yu pressed his 5 fingers together, and the power of 5 elements came crashing down. With a scream like a pig being slaughtered, Gongsun Shan's body was crushed, leaving only his soul and God Source origin. Schwa, with a flip of his palm, a black cage appeared in his palm. It was the demon god cage. With a flash of demonic light, Gongsun Shan's soul was swept away. Having lost his physical body, Gongsun Shan knew that Su Yu would never let him go. His face became ferocious again, and he screamed, "Bitch! My father won't let you off. Don't worry. I will reunite you father and son." As soon as the demonic light retracted, his soul was sucked into it. Not long after, he heard a shrill scream. His consciousness was quickly erased by the cage. Soon, the screams stopped, and a mass of ownerless God Source origin flew out. Holding it in his palm for a while, he looked back at the Duanxian Cliffmaster. "I'll give you a chance to become a god." With that, he threw it to the Duanxian Cliffmaster. "What, give it to me?" "This." The Duanxian Cliffmaster's hands trembled. He couldn't believe that Su Yu would give him such a precious God Source origin. "If you can become a god yourself, then you won't need it. Seizing the God Source origin of others would result in a very low level of achievement. They were called man-made gods, and they were much weaker than ordinary gods." The Duanxian Cliffmaster hurriedly said, "Yes, you can use it. How can you not use it?" Becoming a god was the dream of all the mortal fairies. "However, can I leave it for Wuxia? She didn't inherit the divine blood of the Gongsun bloodline, and she has no hope of becoming a god in this life." Su Yu said casually, "You can use it first. When Wuxia becomes a peak mortal fairy, I will find another one." His tone was as if digging up the God Source origin of an early-stage perspective deity was as easy as taking something out of his pocket. Thinking back carefully, Su Yu had just suppressed Gongsun Shan so easily. It was really like taking something out of his pocket. The Gongsun father and daughter were stunned. When they were in the Great Eastern Alliance, Su Yu was famous. The father and daughter knew about it, but they didn't have the power to kill a middle-stage prospective deity so easily. It could only be said that Su Yu had left for 2 years, and his strength had improved qualitatively. All right, let's go. Su Yu strode out of the underground secret room and looked around at the guards who dared not come forward. His eyes flashed, and he shot a glance at a housekeeper hiding in the distance. Swish! 5 colors flashed, and he teleported in front of the housekeeper, pressed his shoulder, and said coldly, "Where is the Gongsun deity?" There was no trace of him in the mansion. The housekeeper trembled, almost thinking that he was going to die, and said shakily, He is holding an alliance meeting." Alliance meeting? No wonder no god showed up despite such a huge commotion. Pushing him away, Su Yu said, "Forget it, for the sake of the alliance, I will not go there and make a scene. When the Gongsun deity comes back, tell him that I have taken his precious son away, and if he wants him, come to the Jili Cavern world to find me." After saying that, he left with the Gongsun father and daughter. Everyone was stunned, and no one dared to chase after them. Damn it! He is so arrogant! What does he mean by not making a scene for the alliance? What the hell, what an eye-opener! He is so arrogant and presumptuous. He took away the Gongsun family's young master and asked the Gongsun deity to go and see him. Yes, he is too damn arrogant. I wish I could have such a day. The housekeeper's face was gloomy. Looking around at the messy mansion, his heart sank to the bottom. A small substitute deity had destroyed the Gongsun family, and even the young master had been taken away. Such a shame was far worse than the escape of his family members. The thought of losing more than the gain emerged in the housekeeper's mind. "Shut up!" Hearing the guard's words getting more and more outrageous, the housekeeper scolded, "Send someone to the outside of the Alliance Master's palace immediately. When the family master comes out, inform me immediately." In the eyes of the housekeeper, it was as if the sky had collapsed. In addition, all the news here is blocked, and no one is allowed to leak it. The housekeeper thought of something and warned sternly. However, looking at the crowd watching from afar, the housekeeper felt bitter in his heart. Soon, the Alliance city was in an uproar. The Gongsun family, one of the top 10 anti-demon families, was attacked by a mysterious person. Their mansion was destroyed, and their young master was taken away. What was more arrogant was that they asked the Gongsun deity to go to the Jili Cavern world to pick up the young master. "Hey, have you heard? A ruthless person has come to the Alliance city. Do you need to tell me? The substitute deity of the Great Eastern Alliance, right? The one who destroyed the Gongsun mansion and took away the young master? Hey, this is not news. The news is that many strong people of the Alliance are rushing to the Jili Cavern world to see the true face of this ruthless person. Why is the substitute deity of the Great Eastern Alliance so arrogant? I have lived for a long time. How dare he attack the anti-demon families? What's so great about him? He just made a scene when the Gongsun deity is not at home. Idiot. After making a scene, will you ask the Gongsun deity to go to pick up the young master? According to the people who came back from the Jili Cavern world, he is waiting there. Damn. The Great Western Alliance is going to be lively. Let's go and see who he is. The Jili Cavern world was an independent cavern world not far from the Great Western Alliance. It was invaded by the demons many years ago. After the fall of the Jili deity, most of the cavern worlds were devoured, leaving only a small part of them. In a dilapidated pavilion on a desolate mountain, Su Yu sat with his legs crossed, waiting for the Gongsun deity quietly. Unidentified strong people came from the vicinity of the mountain one after another. However, they did not dare to approach within 1,000 feet of the mountain. There was a thick red line, which formed a circle covering 1,000 feet of the mountain. Inside the circle, there were several corpses of mortal fairies scattered. Hiss, that is the famous Tuimo. How could he die here? A latecomer saw one of the corpses and gasped. Why? He didn't listen to the warning and broke into the circle. He was killed by a single blow. What a pity! Although Tuimo is arrogant, it is a pity that such a powerful peak mortal fairy died like this. If it is a pity for him, look over there. Isn't it more pitiful? Following his gaze, the latecomer's scalp went numb. He said in a trembling voice, an early-stage prospective deity. Lang Lixing, who ranks third among the rogue martial artists of the Great Western Alliance. He is proficient in the flying escape technique. How could he be killed? Lang Lixing thought his escape technique was excellent. He teased the substitute deity of the Great Eastern Alliance and planned to run away after entering the circle. As a result, the substitute deity teleported and killed him with a palm. His celestial energy sphere was taken away directly. Hiss. Teleportation. He is just a stage 3 mortal fairy. Anyway, those corpses are lying on the ground. No one dares to approach the circle anymore. In the pavilion, the Gongsun father and daughter looked at the increasing number of strong men and felt uneasy. Things seemed to be getting out of hand. Mr. Su, why don't we just forget about it? Anyway, I am not dead, Wuxia is safe and sound, and Gongsun Shan has been suppressed by you. Why do we have to fight with the Gongsun deity? If we return to the Great Eastern Alliance, can he still fight back? Su Yu said lightly, let me correct you. I am not here to fight, but to negotiate peacefully with the Gongsun deity. Hearing this, Gongsun Wuxia almost stumbled and fell off the cliff. That's right, in order to negotiate calmly. He destroyed the other party's residence and captured their young master? What kind of peaceful negotiation was this? If the Gongsun deity really comes, he will not be reasonable. Mr. Su, are you sure you can deal with him? Su Yu pointed to himself. Who am I? I am the substitute deity of the Great Eastern Alliance. We are both deities. Who is afraid of whom? The Duanxian Cliffmaster was embarrassed. He thought to himself, are the deities of the two of you comparable? With anxiety and uneasiness, they waited quietly, silently watching the increasing number of people of the Western Alliance. Chapter 1263. I guess all of you have heard about the changes in the realm of devils. Although we don't know the reason, the giant did extend his finger out of the realm of devils. A majestic middle-aged man said as a picture appeared in his palm. That was the scene when Su Yu and the others were crushed by the giant. What do you think? The Alliance Master glanced at a dark-skinned middle-aged man at the end of the table. The man said, I have some ideas. The Alliance Master said with a smile, Gongsun deity, please. The rest of the deities looked on coldly. They knew the Alliance Master had a close relationship with the Gongsun family, and he intended to let the Gongsun family, which was ranked last, stand out. First, find out who the giant is. It is rare for the giant to attack the realm of devils, so they must be very important to the realm of devils. We can definitely get important information from them. Second, find out the voice that repelled the realm of devils. He must be a powerful man, who will be of great help to us in fighting against the devil tribe. Third, no matter what, the realm of devils will be in turmoil, and we must take precautions. After hearing that, the Alliance Master said approvingly, what he said is exactly what I am thinking. Do you have anything to add? The family masters were silent. They didn't know the details until now. What could they add? However, the Gongsun deity, who had been summoned by the Alliance Master before the meeting, should know the details in advance, so he could put forward feasible suggestions so quickly. Seeing the deities were silent, the Gongsun deity smiled contentedly. With the help of the Alliance Master, the Gongsun family had been thriving in the past 10 years. They had accumulated strength secretly and made many meritorious deeds that even the top 3 families were jealous of. In a few years, the Gongsun family would be ranked in the top 5 families. If not, we will carry out a thorough investigation. The Alliance Master made the final decision. At this time, a lazy voice came in. Gongsun deity, you said you would take precautions, but why haven't you reached an agreement with the envoy of the Great Eastern Alliance? It has been half a year and you have made no progress. The deities were amused. The speaker was from the Glittering family, which was ranked 5th in the realm of devils. If nothing unexpected happened, their ranking would be forcibly taken by the Gongsun clan in a few years. If they were to rely on their own strength, the Glittering family would have nothing to say. But for so many years, the Alliance leader had been biased and had dragged the Glittering family down many times, resulting in the current situation. How could the Glittering family be willing to let this go? Over the years, the Glittering clan had been at odds with the Gongsun clan. Gongsun deity frowned. Forming an alliance is of great importance. Therefore, the detailed negotiation will definitely take up a lot of time. Haha, why did I hear that your precious son was lustful again and insisted on marrying the daughter of the Saint God, which caused the stalemate? Such a detailed discussion is really in line with the style of the Gongsun family, Glittering deity said with a faint smile. Hearing this, no matter how well-mannered the gods were, they couldn't help but laugh. They had more or less heard about this matter. The gods of the Great Eastern Alliance had no reason to oppose the alliance. However, after half a year, there had been no progress in the negotiation. They knew a little about the reason. Besides the high requirements of the Great Western Alliance, the biggest reason was that the Gongsun family, who was responsible for the negotiation, made trouble. Gongsun deity hoped that the Gongsun family could become the link between the Great Eastern Alliance and the Great Western Alliance. Therefore, he requested the Gongsun deity, who represented the Great Eastern Alliance, to marry the Gongsun deity, who represented the Great Western Alliance. Gongsun Shan happened to like the daughter of the Saint God, Xing Yuanxin. The Great Eastern Alliance wouldn't agree, which was why it had been delayed until now. This matter was not a secret. Gongsun deity couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. Humph! I'm doing this for the good of the two alliances. Only in this way can we strengthen our trust. Then why does your precious son have to marry the daughter of the Glittering family? Any one of the young elites of my Glittering Jewel family is stronger than that perverted son of yours. Hearing this, the Gongsun family burst into laughter again. Gongsun Shan was lustful and tried to steal the daughter of the Saint God. However, he was betrayed by the Gongsun family, which was still a great shame for the Gongsun family. Glittering deity, please show some respect. Gongsun deity's eyes became gloomy. Glittering deity said with a smile, you are capable of doing these things, but you don't allow others to talk about it? How arrogant you are! To be honest, many families hated the Gongsun family. Therefore, none of the 10 great families was willing to speak up for the Gongsun family. Suddenly, Gongsun deity rolled his eyes and sneered, if you want to talk about these things, why did your ancestor turn to the demon tribe and become a demon god? It's a disgrace for a disloyal family like yours to be the first family to resist the demon tribe. Glittering deity became serious and didn't refute him. 10,000 years ago, Glittering Hongchen, a proud daughter of the heaven, betrayed the Great Western Alliance and became a member of the demon tribe, which had an indescribable impact on the Glittering family. Even now, the Glittering family was still speechless when it was mentioned. Because it was a fact. Because of this, although the Glittering family had made great contributions to the demon tribe and was always at the forefront of fighting against the demon tribe, it should have been ranked in the top 3 in terms of strength and merits. But because of this, the 5th family had to be wronged. Heh, you have nothing to say, right? Gongsun deity said with a cold smile. I suggest that the Glittering family should be removed from the position of the anti-demon family in the next ranking. That's enough. An old and indifferent voice interrupted Gongsun deity's words. Hearing this, all the deities looked over at the same time. The person who spoke had a head full of white hair and an aged expression. Since the beginning of the meeting, He had kept his eyes closed and had not spoken a word. However, nobody dared to look down on him. Even the Alliance Master was afraid of him. He was Shimin Jian, the family master of the first anti-demon family. In terms of foundation, the Shimin family was the closest to the Alliance Master's family. It was rumored that the hidden strength of the Shimin family had surpassed that of the Alliance Master's family. According to many rumors, the Shimin family would compete for the position of the Alliance Master when the ranking of the anti-demon families was renewed. The Alliance Master's fear of the Shimin family was evident. Shimin Jian opened his cloudy eyes and stared at Gongsun deity calmly. What's the point of mentioning this matter again in the past 10,000 years? According to what you said, all the new anti-demon families, including the Gongsun family, were just ordinary deities 10,000 years ago. How could they be qualified to take the position of the anti-demon families? Don't you care about the past and ignore the contributions made in the past 10,000 years? Aren't you afraid of disappointing the anti-demon families? Glittering deity bowed to Gongsun deity in silence. Many anti-demon families also shook their heads at Gongsun deity. Gongsun deity felt humiliated and was full of hatred. However, he didn't dare to show his anger in front of Shimin Jian. From now on, don't blame me for being rude to anyone who mentions this kind of thing again, Shimin Jian said fiercely. His words made the atmosphere in the meeting awkward. The Alliance Master tried to smooth things over. Heh heh heh. Shimin deity, don't be angry. Let's call it a day. Flying Dragon deity will be in charge of investigating the people who escaped from the demon realm. Heartless deity will be in charge of investigating the owner of the roaring sound. If there are no other opinions, wait. Shimin Jian interrupted the Alliance Master's words. The Flying Dragon deity still has important matters to attend to and has no time to spare. The Heartless deity has yet to recover from his serious injuries, so it's inconvenient for him to investigate. We have so many anti-demon clans, why would we hand this task to the two most unsuitable people? The other anti-demon families sneered in their hearts. The Flying Dragon deity family, the Heartless deity family, and the Gongsun deity family were the supporters of the Alliance Master. All the important tasks were entrusted to them to increase their merit points. They had been dissatisfied with such partiality for a long time. Now, Shimin Jian rarely showed up, so they should cooperate with him and strongly oppose him. The 10 great aristocratic families and 7 great aristocratic families had jointly opposed it. Even though he was the Alliance Master, he could not act arbitrarily. In your opinion, who should we entrust this task to? The Alliance Master, who was very shrewd, didn't show his emotions. I will investigate the owner of the roaring sound. No one can compete with the Shimin family in terms of information, right? Shimin Jian recommended himself. The glittering deity took the opportunity to act. Let the glittering family clan handle the investigation of the group of people who escaped from the devil world. We are the most sensitive to the devil race. The group of people who escaped are most likely from the devil race. The glittering family clan is the most suitable for this task. Hearing this, the other 4 families agreed. A trace of coldness flashed in the Alliance Master's eyes, but his face was as warm as usual. Very good. You 2 deities are willing to work for the Great Western Alliance. This is the guarantee of the Great Western Alliance's prosperity. Okay, I will entrust these 2 tasks to you. After the meeting ended, all the deities had their own thoughts. The restriction formation was lifted, and all the deities left. Shimin Jian, who has always been low-key, suddenly became high-profile. Just as the rumor said, he wants to be the Alliance Master. Who can't see it? He supported the glittering deity on the spot, which means he is trying to rope in the glittering family. This is interesting. The Alliance Master is having a hard time. It's still too early. The Alliance Master has been working for so many years. How can he be kicked out so easily? If I were Shimin Jian, I'd better be careful not to have any accidents at this critical moment. a deity said meaningfully. Shh. Be careful. When the deities walked out of the Alliance Master's mansion, they received important messages from their families almost at the same time. During the meeting, something big happened in the Alliance City. The Gongsun family was destroyed. The heir of the Gongsun family, Gongsun Shan, was also kidnapped. More importantly, the kidnappers asked the Gongsun deity to go to the Jili Cavern world to pick him up. When most of the deities heard the news, their first reaction was that it was fake news. However, when they glanced at the mansion of the Gongsun family, the quiet ruins told them everything. Ha ha ha. This is going to be a big show. The most beloved son of Gongsun deity has been taken away by someone. How can the Gongsun deity save his face? He was so arrogant at the meeting, but he didn't know that his home had been destroyed. Let's go and have a look. Let's see how the kidnappers will deal with this. In the Jili Cavern world, Su Yu opened his eyes slowly. Chapter 1264. Master Su, will the Gongsun deity come? The Duanxian Cliffmaster frowned as he looked at the increasing number of onlookers. Of course not, Su Yu said. The Gongsun father and daughter opened their mouth. If you knew the Gongsun deity would not come, why are you waiting here? This is a matter of pride. It would be strange if the Gongsun deity would come. Su Yu's eyes lit up as if he had seen the Gongsun deity's every move. I guess he will ask the deities under his command to catch us. Then you. The Duanxian Cliffmaster was extremely puzzled. Su Yu looked at the father and daughter. Of course, I will kill the Gongsun deity. It is hard to guarantee that there are no cronies who want to avenge him. I can't be so lucky to save you every time. Therefore, it is necessary to eliminate evil. In fact, he had another purpose, but it was not convenient to tell the Gongsun father and daughter before he succeeded. The Gongsun father and daughter looked at each other and thought Su Yu was crazy. One deity could kill them, let alone 10 deities under the command of the Gongsun deity. With a wry smile, the two were silent. Su Yu saved their lives. If he was willing to go crazy, then they would go crazy with him. The Gongsun family. The Gongsun deity, who had left the Alliance Palace with satisfaction, rushed back to his mansion as soon as he got the news from the butler. Looking at the mansion that had been razed to the ground, he could not believe his eyes. Who had the guts to destroy the mansion of a demon-fighting family? No, they had also captured Gongsun Shan, a middle-stage prospective deity. Guards! The Gongsun deity roared in a low voice, his eyes full of anger. The deities under his command who had returned with him appeared immediately. My lord, please instruct us. The 10 of them stood in order, glancing at the mansion from the corner of their eyes. They could not help but feel frightened. Who was the one who didn't want to live and did such a disgraceful thing? The thief destroyed my mansion and captured Gongsun Shan when I was not here. Now he is in the Jili Cavern world. You will split into 2 groups. One group will place the world-breaking spell, and the other group will enter to rescue Gongsun Shan. World-breaking spell? The deities were taken aback. The world-breaking talisman was a powerful talisman that could only be refined by the deities of the anti-demon families. It had the terrifying ability to destroy a cavern world. Once it was arranged around the cavern world and detonated, it would destroy the cavern world along with the creatures inside. Unless it was a god who could ignore the compression and destruction caused by the collapse of the cavern world, the rest of the creatures had no chance of survival. Sir, where are the other creatures? I heard that many living beings are heading there as well. Kill them all. They are also annoyed that they colluded with the thieves. The deities were speechless. This was the revenge of the Gongsun deity, who had even taken revenge on the creatures who had been watching the show. What if the thief holds Gongsun Shan hostage and uses him to make demands? The deity in charge of the rescue asked. Gongsun deity said fiercely, I will not accept any compromise. Are you 5 gods afraid of being threatened by them? Even if I place a restriction on his body, there's no need to be afraid. Even if I capture his soul, I will have a way to extract the method to remove the restriction. What if he has hurt Gongsun Shan? Humph! He didn't dare. He caught Gongsun Shan to negotiate with me. Don't worry, Gongsun Shan won't be hurt too much. Do it now. Yes. The 10 deities all dispersed and went to the Jili Cavern world in a mighty manner. As Su Yu had expected, he didn't go in person. If he immediately went to a random thief who asked him to go, it would be too shameful. In the Jili Cavern world, there were mountains and seas of onlookers. There were both ordinary people and hidden deities who were watching the show quietly. Hey, I seem to feel the aura of 10 deities coming. Sure enough, the Gongsun deity will never come. Although I admire this guy for slapping the Gongsun deity in the face, it is not worth it to offend the Gongsun deity for him. Let's go. We have seen enough of the show. In the pavilion, Su Yu slowly stood up and looked into the distance with a faint smile on his face. They are all here. Very well, I can solve them once and for all. Who is here? As a peak mortal fairy, the Duanxian Cliffmaster's perception was not as strong as Su Yu's. Su Yu laughed. No one, just the deities under the command of the Gongsun deity. How many are here? The Duanxian Cliffmaster held his breath. Only 10. Only 10? The Gongsun deity's pupils shrank sharply. What do you mean by only 10? That is the whole army, okay? Swish. As he spoke, 5 deities shrouded in divine light appeared in the Jili Cavern world. The strange thing was that the other 5 did not enter the Jili Cavern world. Instead, they quietly arranged something around the cavern world. After the 5 deities appeared, they looked directly at Su Yu. Hand over Gongsun Shan. The deity responsible for the rescue shouted in front of Su Yu. Su Yu stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "If I hand him over, you will kill me without a burial place. If I don't hand him over, you will also kill me without a burial place. It makes no difference whether I hand him over or not. Why should I hand him over? If you hand him over, you will die a quick death. If you don't hand him over, you will die a miserable death." The person in charge shouted coldly. "You have violated the prestige of the anti-demon family. This crime is unforgivable. Don't take any chances. Today you can't escape death. While you still have a choice, hand him over and I will give you a quick death." Su Yu's eyes were filled with coldness. "Then, I will also give you a choice. Now, when I am not in a bad mood, you can either stand aside obediently or be killed by me one by one. Make your choice now." The person in charge shook his head for he had nothing to say. "Attack. Destroy their bodies and detain their souls. Remember to take away all their magic treasures. There may be a small portable cavern world among them. Gongsun Shan should be in it." The person in charge shouted loudly. Then, he turned into a mass of divine light and teleported to Su Yu. The other 4 deities teleported to Gongsun Shan and his daughter. They decided to detain them all at once as fast as a sudden clap of thunder. However, right at this moment, the 5 gods suddenly felt an unusual fluctuation of divine power flashing by. The 9 jade spiritual light on Su Yu's arm flickered. Then, 5 emerald green branches stretched out and whipped the 5 deities randomly. Just a slight touch of the branches sent the 5 deities flying backward as if they had been electrocuted. The deities who were responsible for the rescue stared at the fluttering branches in shock. "A divine-level expert. I haven't seen the sun for a long time." A familiar and sweet voice, which was as beautiful as the sounds of nature, appeared with the figure of a graceful and charming girl. It was an elegant and noble woman with picturesque features. She was wearing an exquisite emerald dress, which was floating in the breeze. She was as beautiful as a fairy. When the girl appeared, she stared at Su Yu with her beautiful crystal eyes and said with a smile, "Thank you very much." She was the tree goddess who had been in a deep sleep for 2 years. The water of the bitter sea in her body was gradually dissolved under the control of the Milky Way star sand. Moreover, when she was in a coma, her body was planted in the supreme growing soil. When she woke up, her strength did not decrease but increased. Judging from her aura, she was much stronger than before. She was even stronger than the all-access merchant god and the Xing deity. It seemed that she could also compete with the sixth princess. "It's my pleasure," Suyu replied with a smile. When he looked into her eyes, he felt that there was a trace of charm in her eyes. The tree goddess sensed it and turned her eyes to Gongsun Shan and his daughter. "Hey, an old friend from Jiuzhou." Gongsun Shan and her daughter were shocked and said, "You are the ancient bronze tree goddess?" Her existence was not a secret. "Oh, call me Mrs. Su." "Mrs. Su." The Duanxian cliff master looked at Suyu and then at Suyu. He was stunned. Gongsun Wuxie was stunned for a moment. She pouted and stared at Suyu bitterly. "Oh, little girl, you are jealous. Rest assured, I will fulfill your wish. In this way, if he cheats, he will have to leave the family with nothing, and all the property will be mine, ha ha ha." The tree goddess put her hands on her hips and laughed. "Wake up, it's dawn." Suyu was not surprised. "Let's get rid of the gods in front of us first." The tree goddess's smile did not diminish. She looked up and down at the 5 gods and her eyes lit up. "Oh, look at your faces, there is a treasure light in your body from time to time. You must have a treasure with you. You are much richer than a group of poor gods in the Great Eastern Alliance. If I don't rob you, it will be intolerable." The 5 gods were glanced at by her, and for some reason, they all felt a chill. "What are you afraid of? 5 against 1, we have a great chance of winning." Even the Gongsun deity would lose in the case of 5 against 1. The tree goddess smiled gently. 5 against 1? Ha ha ha. Swish. She turned into a mass of green light and flashed in the center of the 5 gods, her body surging with magnificent divine power. The strength of the divine power shook the whole cavern world. As soon as she attacked, a god's body was smashed, and his soul was imprisoned by the tree goddess before it could escape. Her methods were fierce, and her strength was strong. She was totally different from the past. What? This is a god at the level of a master of an aristocratic family. The person in charge of the rescue was shocked and shouted, "The Breaking World team, requesting support. A strong enemy has appeared." Swish, swish, swish. Another 5 beams of divine light appeared and merged with them. There were a total of 9 gods. As if they were facing a great enemy, they stared at the elegant and beautiful woman with fear and dread. 8 of us will besiege her, and 1 of us will catch that guy. The person in charge of the rescue immediately analyzed the woman's weakness. What she cared most was the silver-haired youth who let her appear. Swish. Immediately, a beam of divine light flashed toward Suyu. The tree goddess stood still and said, "Be careful. Don't worry. I won't die. It's better for you to die. As a widow, all your belongings will belong to me." "Why did you ask me to be careful?" "Oh, I asked the idiot who attacked you to be careful." When the deities attacked, Su-Yu's lips curled into a faint sneer. He turned his palm over, and a golden book appeared in his hand. It was the Star River scripture. As he waved his hand, a large amount of demonic god's blood was sprayed on the book. Then, the Star River scripture was opened silently. Growl. Along with a deafening roar, a deity-level wild beast rushed out and crashed into the chest of the god who was close to it. Puff. Caught unprepared, the god was knocked away by the deity-level wild beast. Then, he fell into the Star River through the cavern world. What? A deity-level wild beast. The gods who besieged the tree goddess were shocked. Chapter 1265. The tree goddess said with a faint smile, "Take care of yourself first." She turned around. Her emerald dress fluttered in the wind, and countless emerald light spots were embellished around the cavern world like stars. The jade-green dots of light each shot out a jade-green ray of light that connected with each other, forming an incomparably huge net that enveloped all of them. The 8 deities were shocked. They tried to break the net, but they couldn't break it with their divine strength. Heh! Heh! Leave your treasures here. A deity screamed miserably after a charming laugh. Ah! Attack! Attack together! The remaining 7 deities were scared out of their wits by the powerful tree goddess. Unfortunately, they were killed one by one like sheep in the hands of the tree goddess. The deity who was knocked into the Star River shouted angrily and teleported back. Evil creature, you are seeking death. Boom. The deity-level wild beast was no match for Suyu. Half of its body was smashed into pieces. After all, it was subdued by the book deity. After being dealt with, its strength was reduced. Therefore, its combat ability was lower than that of an ordinary deity. However, Suyu had more tricks up his sleeves. Go! The 5 elements mountain appeared in Suyu's palm. Then, he threw it into the air. Like a mountain, it covered the deity's head. The deity sensed something was wrong, so he teleported away. Strangely, once the 5 elements mountain locked onto him, it also teleported away and landed rapidly. The deity teleported more than 100 times, but he still couldn't get rid of the 5 elements mountain. With a reluctant roar, the deity was crushed to the bottom of the cavern world by the 5 elements mountain. Then, the deity fell into the Star River. Under the suppression of the 5 elements mountain, he could only use his divine strength slightly. However, he couldn't get rid of the 5 elements mountain. This scene shocked everyone. Even a deity was suppressed by the 5 elements mountain. What on earth is that colorful mountain? If they knew the demonic god of 6 paths had been suppressed by the 5 elements mountain, they wouldn't be surprised. The difference was that only half of the demonic god of 6 paths' body was pressed into the ground. However, the deity in front of them fell into the depths of the Star River. However, the deity didn't fall for long because the deity chased after him greedily. Not long after, an incomparably miserable scream came from the depths of the galaxy. After a while, the god-level wild beast returned with a mouth full of blood and a dying divine soul in its mouth. Very good. Suyu waved his hand and pressed the dying divine soul deep into the space between his brows. In a certain space, an excited voice came, "Kaka, divine soul, I know you love me." Ha! The corners of Suyu's mouth twitched. He retrieved the 5 elements mountain and the scripture of mountains and rivers. Then, he glanced at the countless stunned onlookers. As someone who had killed countless deities, Suyu didn't feel that killing a deity was shocking at all. Under the countless gazes, he looked at the emerald green net calmly. After being killed by the tree goddess, there were less than 6 gods left, and all of them were injured. Suyu walked to the front of the net and looked indifferently at the deities who were suffocating under the pressure. When they were stared at by Suyu, all of their hair stood on end, as if they were being stared at by a ferocious tiger outside its cage. The scene of him killing a god in a few moves shocked them to the core. Do you also want to come in and have some fun? The tree goddess was in high spirits. After killing one, she would plunder the treasures of the dead deity. Now, she was a bit unwilling to let Suyu come in to rob her treasures. Hearing this, the remaining 6 deities were desperate. Do you still want to choose? Suyu asked. What? The 6 deities were shocked. The deity who was responsible for the rescue said hurriedly as if he had found a life-saving straw, "Please, please show mercy to us. We won't interfere in this matter anymore. Please spare our lives." The 10 aggressive deities were killed in the blink of an eye. Now, 4 of them were killed. Who wouldn't be scared? Although the Great Western Alliance had a strict hierarchy, those who disobeyed the families would be punished. However, the 2 ferocious deities in front of them could kill them. That was the choice I gave you before. I asked you to stand aside obediently. However, you didn't listen to me. Now, I won't give you such a good opportunity. Suyu said coldly, "Now, you only have 2 choices. One is to surrender to me, and the other is to be killed by him and plunder all your treasures. Which one will you choose? Surrender? The deities looked bitter. It was only a little bit better than death. Can we? The deity who was responsible for the rescue tried to bargain with them. No. Don't count on luck. If you think I won't kill you, you can choose to refuse to surrender to me. The 6 deities' eyelids twitched. Are you kidding me? You have killed so many deities. How could you not dare to kill them? The 6 deities looked at each other helplessly. A good death was better than a bad life. They all had families. Once they died, their families would definitely decline. No. I haven't plundered enough. It's not easy for me to meet a bunch of rich guys. You don't know how poor I am. The tree goddess was the first to disagree. Suyu said angrily, Then, do you still want to go back to the growing soil to continue your cultivation? Yes. Then, put a restriction on them. Don't kill them again. Can I kill one more? Just one more. Please. I am too poor, no. Suyu stared at her. Humph. You are so stingy. The tree goddess put a restriction on them angrily. The woman in front of them wanted to kill all of them. So, the 6 deities didn't dare to give her any excuse to kill them. Before she approached them, they lowered their heads and didn't dare to breathe heavily. They were afraid that she would find an excuse to kill them if they looked at her. After putting a restriction on them successfully, the tree goddess walked back discontentedly. Then, she put 6 emerald seals into Suyu's hand. These are the restrictions of the ancient bronze tree goddess. They can't break them unless they find another ancient bronze tree goddess, the tree goddess said. Gods of the 5 elements had a unique advantage in the art of sealing. Most of the wood deities were good at sealing, which could be seen when she helped Suyu seal the curse left by the central prefecture's king. The tree goddess glanced at Suyu's chest and said with a frown, When you are free, I will reinforce the seal for you. Previously, I was too weak to block the curse completely. When she put the seal on Suyu, she was seriously injured. But now, she was a real deity. Suyu frowned slightly. Actually, I don't know who the father of the central prefecture's king is. I don't know whether the demonic god sensed my existence when I came back from the realm of demons. When the deities under Suyu's control walked over, they were shocked. The one who escaped from the realm of demons and attracted the attack of the giant of the realm of demons was you? The entire Great Western Alliance was shocked by this incident. Suyu was a bit surprised. Yes. Is there any problem? The 6 deities were dumbfounded by Suyu's words. All the deities, including the Alliance Master, believed the one who escaped from the realm of demons must be a demon. This was because there had never been a precedent of any other living being leaving the demon realm alive. I didn't expect it was you, my master. The deities changed their words hurriedly. Then, they informed Suyu about the details of the meeting. Oh? The Great Western Alliance wants to know what happened in the realm of demons? Suyu was surprised. Something strange happened in the realm of demons. Okay. I will visit the glittering deity when I have time. Why don't we invite the glittering deity here? Finding you will be a meritorious deed. I believe the glittering deity will come here in person. No. You should keep this matter a secret. Let's deal with the Gongsun deity first. Hearing that, the 6 deities were embarrassed. They were ordered to capture Suyu. However, they didn't expect Suyu would set a restrictive spell on them. Send a message to the Gongsun deity, and ask him to come here to see me, Suyu said coldly. As the deities under the command of the Gongsun deity, they surely had a way to contact the Gongsun deity. Let me do it. The deity who was responsible for the rescue was the most trusted subordinate of the Gongsun deity. He was a Yu deity of the Yu clan. He took out a crystal ball, which could transmit images and messages, to the Gongsun deity immediately. After he injected his divine strength into the crystal ball started to shine. After a short while, a clear image appeared in the crystal ball along with a dull sound. The Gongsun deity, who was standing in the ruins of his mansion with his arms crossed, said indifferently, "Is it done? Have you captured his soul?" The Yu deity was embarrassed. Then, he moved the crystal ball to Su Yu and said, "Gongsun deity, you should be looking for him." The Gongsun deity frowned as he looked at the image of Su Yu. "What are you doing? Why didn't you destroy his body and capture his soul? Also, what did you call me?" The Gongsun deity shouted as he sensed something was wrong. The Yu deity felt bitter in his heart. However, he knew it was time for him to make a decision. After taking a deep breath, the Yu deity scolded sternly, "Gongsun deity. You went against the flow and disregarded the lives of living beings. You tried to destroy the Jili Cavern world and bury them all. The other deities and I still have a conscience. Therefore, we have decided to abandon the darkness for the light and serve this Lord from now on." Then, the crystal ball moved to the other deities. Seeing that, they shouted solemnly, "Gongsun deity, please forgive us for not being able to follow you." In the image of the crystal ball, the Gongsun deity was motionless as if he had been frozen. After a while, he asked in disbelief, "Did you betray me?" His trusted subordinates who had been following him for many years betrayed him? He was totally stunned by this sudden betrayal. The Yu deity sighed, "Gongsun deity, if you continue to be stubborn, you will suffer a lot. Just apologize to this lord and repent for your mistakes." Hearing that, the Gongsun deity's face turned red with anger. Then, he almost spat out blood in anger. Can you not lie with your eyes wide open? He destroyed my mansion and kidnapped my child. Now, you want me to apologize to him and repent for my mistakes? What the hell is this?" The Gongsun deity was trembling with anger. The Yu deity sighed calmly, "Alas! Gongsun deity, the sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and you will be saved." "Exactly. Just come here and apologize to him. Gongsun deity, for the sake of our past friendship, I suggest you stop being stubborn and reflect on your mistakes." Puff. The Gongsun deity couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. "Damn you! You destroyed my mansion and kidnapped my child. Now, you want me to apologize to you. How dare you?" "Fine. I will go there in person. Let's talk face to face." Bang! The crystal ball was destroyed by the Gongsun deity angrily. The Yu deity looked at Su Yu helplessly. Su Yu said with a faint smile, "I am not afraid that he will come. I am afraid that he won't come. Just wait here quietly for a good show. I guess the person I am waiting for will arrive soon." "The person? Who?" Chapter 1266. Soon after that, the Jili Cavern world started to shake and was on the verge of collapse. A strong divine light pierced through the barrier of the Jili Cavern world and illuminated the whole sky. Many creatures in the cavern world prostrated themselves and trembled in fear. That was an extraordinary deity's fluctuation, which meant he was not an ordinary deity. Crack! A pitch-black crack was torn open in the cavern world. Then, a deity who was covered in golden light descended from it. "Gongsun deity is here as I expected. How could he not be here?" His trusted subordinates were either killed or betrayed him. How could he remain indifferent? Heh, Gongsun deity is in big trouble today. Not necessarily. The family head of one of the top 10 anti-demon families can't be that simple. The Yu deity, who was standing behind Su Yu, lowered his head subconsciously as he looked at the deity in the divine light. When he realized his situation, he raised his head reluctantly but didn't dare to look into Gongsun deity's eyes. Gongsun deity looked at the 6 deities coldly and said, "Say it again. Who should apologize to us?" The 6 deities remained silent. None of them dared to say anything. "Say it." Gongsun deity's shout scared the Yu deity and the other deities. The Gongsun deity had been powerful for a long time, which scared them subconsciously. The Yu deity and the other deities didn't dare to look into Gongsun deity's eyes. They lowered their heads silently. The entire Jili Cavern world fell silent because of Gongsun deity's shout. None of the onlookers, including the Yu deity, dared to say anything at this moment. Then, a chuckle broke the deathly silence. The 6 of you are now my people, yet you are bowing and bowing to another god. Are you looking down on me? It sounded like a chuckle. However, it was like thunder to the Yu deity and the other deities, which made them sweat profusely. Their lives were in Su Yu's hands now. If you think you are useless, I don't need to keep you alive. Hearing that, the Yu deity and the other deities said seriously, As you wish, master. What are you waiting for? The deity in front of us is extremely vicious, and he tried to bury the creatures of the Great Western Alliance in the Jili Cavern world. In my opinion, he is most likely a spy sent by the Devil Clan. Capture him and interrogate him. Yes. The Yu deity and the other 4 deities didn't dare to hesitate anymore. Although they were still afraid of Gongsun deity, they had no other choice. Gongsun deity, you are unforgivable, the Yu deity shouted as he attacked first. The other 5 gods also chose to act. 6 versus 1 was Gongsun deity's limit. At least according to his previous fights, he had a very low chance of winning 5 versus 1, let alone 6 versus 1. However, Gongsun deity said coldly, Those who betray me will die. You are the one who will die. The Yu deity and the other 5 were ready to risk their lives to kill him. In the beginning, the Gongsun deity was able to resist them, and he was able to fight evenly with the 6 of them. However, as time went by, the Yu deity and the other 5 overcame their fear and cooperated with each other more skillfully. Gradually, they gained the upper hand. Destroy! Suddenly, the Yu deity found an opportunity. He pulled out a bone whip and sprayed a mouthful of divine blood on the bone whip. The bone whip turned red instantly, which was almost as powerful as an imitation emperor-based saint artifact. Then, it hit Gongsun deity's back. Bang! A muffled sound that penetrated the cavern world echoed in the silent world. A big hole was left on Gongsun deity's back, and his white bones could be vaguely seen. After being seriously injured, Gongsun deity's eyes turned red and filled with anger. Then, he turned around and stared at the Yu deity like an injured beast. You want to kill me with the magic weapon I gave you? The Yu deity was shocked. Then, he swallowed his saliva and pretended to be calm. You are so stubborn. Don't blame me for killing you for righteousness. Righteousness. I will kill you first. Gongsun deity shouted as his divine blood flowed backward in his body. Heaven-defying 9 divine blade. After a shout, Gongsun deity's body was filled with boundless knife essence. 9 divine blades of different shapes appeared behind him, each of which was as powerful as an imitation emperor-based saint artifact. This is... The Yu deity and the other deities were shocked. They had been following Gongsun deity for so many years, but they didn't know Gongsun deity had such a powerful bloodline. Kill! Along with a shout, the 9 divine blades behind him became real and pierced through the Yu deity's chest instantly. The Yu deity's eyebrows twitched wildly as he sensed the danger. Then, he waved the bone whip in his hand to protect himself immediately. Crack! The bone whip, a top celestial artifact, was broken by the 9 divine blades. Then, the powerful knife chi pierced through the bone whip and reached the Yu deity's body directly. The Yu deity was shocked. He didn't dare to let the knife chi pierce through his body. So, he took out a charm and crushed it. The charm emitted a bright light which covered his body and formed a pitch-black armor. Judging from its aura, it was an imitation emperor-based saint artifact. Clang! Sparks appeared on the pitch-black armor. Meanwhile, 9 dents were left on it. However, the Yu deity was knocked away by the tremendous force. Gongsun deity's eyes were full of killing intent. You are not qualified to be so arrogant without my magic treasure. Su Yu caught the Gongsun deity in front of him after saying that. After looking at Gongsun deity calmly, Su Yu took out a pink skull. The power of an imitation emperor-based saint artifact was much more powerful than the bone whip. Anyway, you are my subordinate. Just take it. I will find you a suitable imitation emperor-based saint artifact when I am free. Then, he threw the pink skull to the deity. The onlookers were totally shocked by this scene. Gasp! He gave away an imitation emperor-based saint artifact so easily. There are less than 20 imitation emperor-based saint artifacts in the Great Western Alliance. Almost all of them are in the hands of the descendants of deities. No. It sounds like this imitation emperor-based saint artifact is not a big deal to him. Who the hell is he? How could he give away such a precious magic treasure with the help of a powerful deity? The deity was stunned for a while. Then, he said excitedly, "Thank you, Master! Thank you, Master!" The other 5 deities looked at the deity with jealousy in their eyes. How could he get an imitation emperor-based saint artifact so easily? He had just pledged his loyalty to another deity, but the benefits he could get were doubled. At this moment, the deity and the other 5 deities suddenly realized the person they had pledged loyalty to was not an ordinary person. Gongsun deity shouted even more aggressively, "Die!" He couldn't tolerate the betrayal of his trusted subordinate. Also, he couldn't tolerate the fact that his trusted subordinates could live a better life after their betrayal. After getting the precious magic treasure, the deity was relieved. Then, he said with a cold smile, "You should die first." Buzz. The deity activated it with his divine strength. Instantly, the pink skull opened its mouth. Intoxicating music came out from it. The music was so gentle that it could drive away the restlessness and hatred in people's hearts. Then, it calmed people down and prevented them from having any negative emotions. Then, the pink skull was enshrouded by the pink mist. After a while, the pink mist opened up a path. Then, a lady in a pink ancient costume walked out of it. She was so beautiful that even the sun and the moon couldn't compete with her beauty. Her temperament was like that of a fairy. Every move of hers was like an ethereal fairy. Looking at him, from ordinary martial artists to deities, there was no one who wasn't stunned. They were deeply conquered by this beauty that didn't belong to the mortal world. Gongsun deity, who was in a rage, calmed down gradually. Then, he stared at the lady in the pink ancient costume absent-mindedly. Only the deity was not affected by her beauty. He turned into a jet of light and approached Gongsun deity. Then, he pointed at Gongsun deity's forehead with his index finger and middle finger. Puff! Along with a dull sound, Gongsun deity's head was penetrated by the powerful divine strength. At this moment, he recovered from the severe pain. The beautiful lady in front of him disappeared and was replaced by the deity, who was full of killing intent. Gongsun deity shouted angrily as he slapped the deity away. However, he was also sent flying backward. A bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows, and his divine blood kept gushing out. The deity spat out a mouthful of blood as he was hit in the chest. However, he said excitedly, "His body and soul are both injured. Let's attack him together. We can kill him with one blow." Because of his serious injury, the 9 divine broadswords behind Gongsun deity had disappeared completely. "Let me deal with him! Get out of my way! Let me deal with him!" The other 5 deities, who were stimulated by Gongsun deity, started to attack him as if he were their mortal enemy. They were stimulated by the deity's good luck. A replica of an emperor-based saint artifact. If they could kill Gongsun deity, they would be rewarded handsomely. The deity, who was annoyed, didn't dare to be left behind. The audience was dumbfounded as they looked at this unprecedented and bizarre scene. Not long ago, they had been Gongsun deity's henchmen. Now, they were trying to kill him as if he were his mortal enemy. 6 deities arrived in front of Gongsun deity instantly and attacked him. All of them were trying to kill him. Gongsun deity couldn't resist at all. His eyes were full of hatred. Right when he was about to be killed, a loud and clear voice suddenly resounded through the heavens and the earth. Reversal of heaven and earth, fixing yin and yang. With a light shout, the 6 deities actually stopped moving and were frozen in place. Although they were still in the same position, their bodies and souls were totally out of control like puppets. Only their eyes were full of shock and fear. The onlookers were also in an uproar. Fixing yin and yang in the secret book of heaven and earth. It's the Alliance leader. What? The Alliance leader is here. Oh no. The Alliance leader is here. It seems Gongsun deity is well prepared. He asked the Alliance leader for help before he came here. Indeed. Although that guy and the deities around him are powerful, they are nothing in front of the Alliance leader. I'm afraid he didn't expect that the Alliance leader would be here. Swish. The Julie cavern world was shaking violently. It seemed this world couldn't contain powerful beings anymore. Along with a deafening sound, the cavern world was broken into pieces. A middle-aged man in a luxurious robe appeared. He was wearing a purple gold crown and a luxurious robe. Behind him were 10 gods with extremely powerful cultivation bases. Each of them was more powerful than the Yu deity. The tree goddess, who was calm, started to look serious. Be careful, that deity is very dangerous. To everyone's surprise, Su Yu said with a faint smile, "Finally, you are here, the Alliance leader of the Great Western Alliance." Not only the father and daughter of the Duanxian Cliff, but also the onlookers were shocked. Why didn't he go with Gongsun deity? Why did he wait for the Alliance leader? Wait, did he wait for the Alliance leader from the beginning?